after a ship carrying toxic chemicals collided with a US military jet fuel tanker.
Well, the crash took place on the North Sea off the coast of East Yorkshire, with emergency services rescuing 36 crew members.
Well, so far, investigators haven't ruled out foul play following multiple explosions yesterday morning.
Well, we're joined now by a principal at South Shields Marine School, Simon Ashton. Good to see you this morning, Simon. And the biggest question on everyone's lips is, how can this possibly happen?
Well, I think that's for the that's what the investigation is going to find out. I mean, we are dealing with two very modern ships here, and the rules, there are specific rules about how vessels conduct themselves in terms of collision avoidance when they're at sea, and both vessels are required to keep a proper lookout at all times. So, what's happened here, the investigators will find out. And hopefully soon we'll come to a conclusion on that.
But I mean, forgive me, but the jet fuel tanker would appear to have been an anchor.
That's correct, and I think on the face of it, it looks like the other vessel could be entirely to blame for this, but it's never usually that straightforward. Obviously, with the vessels on fire at the moment, it's very, very difficult for anybody to get on board, but once they do get on board, they'll be able to recover the voyage data recorders, which are very similar to an aircraft's black box, and they'll be able to determine what each vessel was doing. From what I also understand is that it was restricted visibility at the time. You know, there was a lot of fog around, so the bridges on both ships, so the Stena Immaculate would have had an anchor watch, and on the Ceylon, the bridges should have been manned greater, basically because of the restricted visibility. So the master may well have been on the bridge, or there might be an additional lookout on the bridge simply because of the fact you can't see anything.
What do we know about these two vessels and what they were carrying?
Well, the Stena Immaculate was, as you've said, was an oil tanker carrying Jet A1 fuel, very similar to kerosene, and the name itself is used in aircraft fuels. For the container vessel, it could be a number of things, but I understand from the reports that it was carrying 15 containers of sodium cyanide, and I suppose obviously it's quite worrying when you hear the word cyanide in any conversation. So there'll be measures taken place by the authorities to protect the people who are fighting the fire, who are fighting trying to prevent the pollution as well. But there'll be also emergency response procedures that will be put in place for the cargo they're carrying. The International Maritime Dangerous Goods Code will stipulate the hazards, the dangers, and how any potential leak or pollution incident should be responded to.
What impact is it likely to have on the coastline, 10 miles out?
Well, at this point in time, it's very, very difficult to say, and I'm not an oceanographer, unfortunately. But obviously, there'll be the risk of pollution washing up on the beaches. Obviously, we're coming up to Easter, and if the weather is good, you could end up with oil. You could end up with lots of people going to the beaches and oil on the beaches. But at this stage, I really couldn't say what the impact of that would be. We all are aware of what happened with the Exxon Valdez over in Alaska, but obviously that was heavy oil. This is a lighter fraction, so it should evaporate a little bit more quickly than that. So, but even so, any oil in the sea is not a good thing.
No, and we know that oil is fuel for American military use. Foul play has not been ruled out by the US government or by the British government so far. What are we to read into that?
I can't say on that. That would be for the investigators to determine themselves. They must think. They have a reason for that, so that's why they've released it. I couldn't comment on that. That's what the investigation will find out, and it's likely that the investigation will be headed up by the American National Transportation Safety Board, so they'll look into that.
OK, Simon Ashton, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, is planning a visit to Moscow to meet with the Russian President Vladimir Putin.
It's expected he'll head to the country later this week, following the president's desire to meet with Putin and form a stronger relationship with Russia.
Well, meanwhile, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio last night suggested that Ukraine must concede some land to Russia as part of an agreement to end the war.
Well, that's as talks between US and Ukrainian officials continue in Saudi Arabia.
And breaking news in the past few moments, Ukraine has launched a major drone attack on Moscow ahead of those key peace talks.
Let's talk to the deputy editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers. What do you make of all this, Fraser? I mean, this is ploughing ahead. It's hard to see if there are ultimately stronger relationships with Russia or Ukraine at this point.
Yeah, it seems that for much of the past few weeks we've been talking about the breakdown of relations between the US and Ukraine. The US is trying to get Russia to the table on these talks. I mean, it's interesting, so much more pressure is being put on Ukraine to make concessions. Military aid has been withdrawn, intelligence sharing has been withdrawn. Hopefully now we'll see some pressure put to bear on Russia, who, let's not forget, is ultimately the aggressor in this war. Since the military aid was given up, they've been mounting some extraordinary attacks on Ukraine, surrounding the Kursk region, attacking Kiev directly. We've just seen, of course, Ukraine fighting back there. But, you know, it's Russia doesn't want to have a ceasefire. There needs to be some pressure put on them, you might think.
Well, it's almost at this point, why would Russia come to the table? I mean, as you're saying, their attacks are intensifying. US military aid has been pulled from Ukraine, intelligence has been pulled from Ukraine. I mean, they have the upper hand in all of this. Why would they come to the table now?
Yeah, that's right. And Ukraine's negotiating position, is constantly being weakened by the United States. You'd think the only reason they would come to the table is potentially, as Zelensky warned, so that they can regroup, so that they can rearm. It's worth remembering they have suffered some quite significant military losses over the past few years. They've taken about a fifth of Ukraine, but many people expected them to be able to take Kiev in a matter of days. So, it's worth remembering how significant and incredible the Ukrainian resistance has been up to this point.
Can we just have a quick look at what else is going on in America? Because the trade wars, right? I mean, good for America, said Donald Trump when it all kicked off. The economy's tanking, and it's having a global impact.
That's right. I mean, it's not looking good for... I mean, Donald Trump used to take credit for gains in the stock market during his first term. He used to tweet about it all the time. Now he's saying, ignore that. Also ignore the price of goods. So the tariff war, I mean, maybe you could say, I'm sure Team Trump would say, look, in the long run, this is going to bring back manufacturing to the US. There might be various changes in the terms of trade with other countries where you can use it as a negotiating tactic. But certainly in the short term, we're looking at a stock market collapse. The people are predicting a recession. I mean, imagine that, an entirely self-imposed recession, starting a trade war with not just China, who you can kind of understand, but with allies like Mexico and Canada. A lot of people are going to be scratching their heads when it comes to, say, the midterm elections or, in 4 years' time as to what this is all about.
And we still have tariffs to come this week, don't we, on steel? 25% tariffs to come on steel. I
mean, the problem is that every time that Trump has proposed a load of tariffs, he then sort of withdraws them. And then, as we've seen in relation to Canada, he sort of withdraws them on some areas. So it's always very difficult to follow what's going on at any one moment. We're still expecting tariffs to come on Europe as well. We haven't yet heard any details about what he plans for Britain. He veers between saying the UK is fine. The British government's trying to tell the US that they have a great surplus with us, but Trump sometimes says that the UK is out of line. We don't quite know what that means.
No. Talking of us here at home, the Tories are talking a lot today about deporting foreign criminals. If you're convicted of a crime over here, or I guess if you come here and depending on what type of crime it is, you've already got a criminal conviction, get them out. Now, is Labour not pushing along those lines already?
I think, most people would expect that that's the normal thing to do. That's what you'd hope. And officially, people who spend time in prison should be deported. But as is so often the case, the fact is that people are able to make all kinds of appeals. They're able to claim a right to stay under often quite dubious human rights grounds. I mean, there's been lots of quite famous cases recently where there's been, for instance, a man said his son doesn't like foreign chicken nuggets, was able to stay and couldn't be deported to Albania. I mean, it was in the sense that he had a sort of food sensitivity and it would be wrong to break up the family. Often there are things like the right to a family life or right to avoid torture, which are rules that sound sensible and proper in the abstract, but then they get implemented in such a strange way, whereas that basically being sent back to any country that isn't a liberal state ends up being considered, you know, the right to avoid torture. So that becomes a problem. There's this huge problem of, essentially quite violent people often are not being deported. This is going to involve unpicking aspects of the Human Rights Act, of the European Convention on Human Rights, possibly the UN Refugee Convention. So it's all very well for the Tories to say this, but it's actually going to be quite a big job of unpicking lots of different laws and treaties in order to make it work. OK,
Fraser Myers, good to see you. Thank you very much.
Well, our poll of the day today is about the tariffs, Donald Trump's tariffs. Will they spark a global recession? Well, I mean, there have been huge downturns in global markets. To be fair, I think the Nasdaq in the States has been worst hit by what's happened so far. But you can have your say on what impact you think it's all going to have. We'll bring the live results throughout the day. Final result in Martin's show later. And if you want to take part, just go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, at 16 minutes past 6, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has halved the number of staff at NHS headquarters as part of a major shake-up. The changes are parts of efforts to redirect funds to frontline services and tighten control over the health service.
The Ministry of Justice has revealed that foreigners are convicted of up to a quarter of all sex crimes in the UK. Now, according to the latest data, foreign nationals were responsible for 15% of sex offences, including rape, between 2021 and 23. The government have said they're committed to making our streets safer.
And children who regularly eat fish are more sociable and kind than the peers who don't. That's according to a new study. Researchers from the University of Bristol said that seafood is a rich source of omega-3, which plays a vital role in brain development. I just said, Stephen, I eat lots of fish. He went, oh, it hasn't worked.
See, I've never eaten fish.
I love fish.
I did, even when I was before I went properly veggie when I was 45 years ago.
You live on cheese.
I still didn't eat fish because I just don't like it.
Really? I love fish. It's really good for you. There's so many different varieties. You could eat different fish every day.
What I find with it is it's quite fishy.
It is.
And that's what I can't bear the smell of it, anything. It makes me feel really sick.
I'm not mad on the fishy fish. You know, like the kippers and stuff. Don't like this one. Fraser, do you want to get in on this?
Fish?
Not keen.
Not keen on fish.
But do you like a salmon or a white fish or a prawn or a...
I love prawns. I love other like seafood, like other like sort of non-fish seafood, if that makes sense.
Got you.
Prawns,
calamari.
Calamari.
Yeah, all the good
octopus.
stuff.
Not fish though. Something about that fish vibe.
All fish welcome here. I love it.
Oh, well, you help yourself then.
I will.
Help yourself. In the meantime, while she's having a chow down on some salmon, let's see what the weather's going to do with Honor.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through the week, we can expect sunshine and also some showers. These showers bringing in some snow and a risk of ice, and it is going to be feeling much chillier than it has done of late. A fairly bright start across Northern Ireland, parts of England and Wales, but a chance we could see some patchy frost. Staying largely dry, though we have got plenty of showers starting to feed through from the northeast. Likely these will bring some sleet and snow, particularly across Scotland. Perhaps even northeastern parts of England could see a sprinkling of snow, and it is going to be feeling chilly, particularly in those brisk northeasterly winds. Highs of only around 10 degrees Celsius, but feeling much chillier than it has done over the last few days. So to end the day across Scotland, there's going to be plenty of cloud around, particularly across northeastern parts. Still, a chance these showers could bring in a sprinkling of sleet and snow, particularly across high ground. Similar across Northern Ireland, cloudy with plenty of showers feeding through. Still plenty of showers still across North Sea coasts as well. And throughout inland areas across England and Wales, more dry weather, but still can't rule out a few showers, particularly across Wales, once again bringing some snow towards hills. Now, through the course of the night, we'll see more and more showers feed their way in from the northeast, but where we see clearer skies, temperatures dipping away and likely to once again see quite a patchy frost by the morning, but still quite a brisk northeasterly flow, stopping a lot of frost formation, but many towns and cities still getting into the low single figures, so a chilly start as we head into Wednesday. Some patchy frost, may even see some icy stretches, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning, and still plenty of snow showers feeding in, mainly across Scotland, northeastern parts of England. Once again, any snow mainly to higher ground, but we could see some flurries to lower levels too. But through the course of the day, as we see more sunshine, that snow likely to build away and still feeling very cold, particularly in those brisk winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, as Christians across the world observe Lent, we're going to be bringing you daily reflections from ministers around the United Kingdom. Here's today's message.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hi everybody, my name is Reverend Nimsabunge. I'm the pastor of Freedom's Ark here in Tottenham. I want to reflect on Matthew chapter 4, verse 5 to 7, where Jesus is being tempted and taken to the pinnacle in the holy temple, and he's being asked to cast himself down because the scripture says he will give his angels charge over him. And we see Satan twisting scripture to test Jesus' identity. But Jesus says, "Thou shalt not tempt the Lord your God." What does that speak to us in contemporary society? How are we meant to respond to the moments where we think that our identity has been put in question, or maybe we've risen to pinnacles in society, we've gotten to certain places, and we think we can be presumptuous about where we are at? I think there's a balance between faith and foolishness, and God is calling us to a place of faith. And that place of faith demands that we seek God's word, and we need to know God's word to respond in times when we get tempted like this. And I also believe that it's so important that we don't allow pride get into our hearts. God calls us to a place of humility. And here Jesus recognizes it's not about his identity, it's about who God is, and he yields to God. In this season of Lent, let's reflect on who God is calling us to be.
Now, still to come for you this morning, how can we keep our police officers in the job? Because a lot of them are wanting to leave. We'll tell you more in a moment.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Trans police officers will be allowed to strip search women despite ongoing backlash from critics. New guidance for the National Police Chiefs Council says that biologically male staff who identify as women should be allowed to intimately search women as long as they possess a gender recognition certificate. Now, what could possibly go wrong? But some women's rights groups claim that the police had forgotten about women in their pursuit of gender ideology. Well, I'm delighted to say I'm now joined by the Surrey Police and Crime Commissioner, Lisa Townsend. Lisa, a delight to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much for joining us. A lot of people have very, very legitimate concerns that if you're a woman, you're in a vulnerable position, you're being searched intimately, it should be another woman who is searching you. And a trans woman, in a lot of people's eyes, isn't a woman. They're a biological man who says they're a woman. What's your take on this?
I'm afraid that this is just the latest in a long line of announcements like this from the NCC about the ability for trans police officers to search women, males essentially, to search women. We wouldn't think it was okay anywhere else, and it's not okay in policing. I think there's also another way of looking at this, which is it's not just male officers, and they are born male. We are talking about males being able to search women. It's also the other way round. It's also female officers potentially being told that they have to search a trans woman, i.e. a male who has been brought into custody. That male could have been brought into custody because he himself has been violent, and he is insisting that he is a woman, and therefore, you know, there's no time to check the gender recognition certificate, but that's how he identifies, and he insists on a female officer searching him. So I think we have to look at this on both sides, and either way, it can't be right.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 6:25 now. A new survey has revealed that financial pressures are pushing many police officers to at least consider leaving the force.
Yes, the Police Family Finance Report found that 24% of those who've been in the job for less than 5 years were thinking about quitting.
Well, that's as 18% of the 10,000 officers surveyed said they also thought about taking on second jobs.
Well, we're joined now by former Surrey Police and Crime Commissioner Kevin Hurley. Good to see you this morning, Kevin. And this is pretty alarming stuff, isn't it?
Well, as someone who comes from a family of 9 Metropolitan Police officers, mum, dad, uncle, 2 brothers, 2 cousins and my own son all serving, I've got a bit of an idea about how police think. Yeah, this is disastrous. It's a continuance, really, of the actions of Theresa May and David Cameron way back in 2012 when they decided they would bring in police reform. The problem with policing, lots of people outside think they know what needs to be done, but it's not until you've done it for many years you really understand how the organisation works. And so we've had continual tinkering combined with the fact that the offer to police officers has been slashed from that which it was 15 years ago. So pensions have been drastically cut, support for medical services and so on dropped. But most important, the actual purchasing power of their salary has dropped off a great deal. And I'll give you an example. When last time round the present government brought in an across-the-board pay rise for all public sector workers, the lowest grant of pay was to the police, so they were at the bottom of the pile of that. If you combine in other kind of what I might call hygiene factors that the police work in, most of the police stations have been sold off, so they work for long periods of time without any peer support around them. The experience of the workforce has dropped off massively as part of this problem that's just been highlighted, where we see people are moving off in great numbers, and people with experience have walked away. I actually think it's a desperate situation. Even if I were put in charge of the police with my background and I was pretty senior, and I still train and advise abroad internationally on policing, I don't think I've got the solution, and I don't think, unfortunately, poor Sir Mark Rowley has got it. But we need, and everyone will say this, at this time of austerity when the government's under pressure, we need to increase the pay, we need to increase the support for training, and we need to do away with some of the ridiculous ideas that were brought in by Theresa May of taking people straight from university and accelerating them to inspector rank, or putting them in charge of 50 people and running shifts.
Can I
it's such a complex job.
Yeah, well, indeed.
You cannot possibly lead.
I mean, we hear in this report that it's not just about money, though clearly that plays a big role. It's about the pressures and everything else, but also family support. Apparently, family support stands at 60% in the first year, which isn't that high, and drops to 34% after 5 years. Now, why are people losing the support of their families?
Because when they come back and talk to their families, they'd see that ultimately all they're getting is, negative distress, disappointment from these people. The thing is, when you join the police, you actually join because you think you're on a white charger, a knight on a white charger, and you want to save the world. It never leaves you. This copper is still in me, despite my own son, after 16 years, Detective Sergeant on the anti-terrorist squad with a good job, said, I've had enough of this, I'm leaving. The passion is still there. But what that passion does, it kind of twists you up when you're so disappointed about the way not only the organisation treats you, the way you're continually backbit by politicians, the continual negative criticism by certain media outlets has a very negative effect on you, which then plays across to the 2 or 3% of the society that you actually police. Because the police really don't do much policing for about 98% of us, maybe only 1%. And that 1% take every opportunity to throw it back in their faces. I mean, we're in a really bad place. I make no bones about it. Police stations cut everywhere. The police are overwhelmed. They're having to take on the work of our depleted mental health services. You'll end up taking people off the street who are mentally disordered, then sit for 6, 7, 8 hours in A&E for a doctor will be able to review them as to whether or not they'll be detained. You end up using force on someone. You're immediately subjected to a witch hunt. You'll go down the street. Everyone's calling you a racist, when it's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, I'll give you a small example of why knife crime is out of control. And let me be absolutely clear. I was a specialist and led in London for Operation Blunt 2, where we cut teenage murders by 70% over a 4-year period. And the way we did that is we picked dedicated officers and we focused on stop and search on those most likely to die by the knife or kill people by the knife, which meant we focused on stopping and searching black youths. And as a result of that, during this period of time, about 400 mothers either didn't lose their child to the undertaker, or these black mothers did not lose them to life imprisonment for joint enterprise murder. But what would you hear now? All police are racist. So the police have learnt the lesson. Don't get into a problem where you're going to be assaulted, shoved, turned around, attacked on the street, and hostile crowds will come around you. Don't get in a situation where you'll get investigated and people say, why are you doing this? So they just walk away from the problem. And sadly, we've got a situation where really good police officers and those who are in between will sometimes shrug their shoulders. To give you an example of what it's like to be a police leader of a shift of about 25 patrol officers. There are about 2 or 3 officers on that shift who do all the proactive work. They are the thief takers. They're the ones who spot the problem. And they are good. And you can guarantee, to use our phrase, every shift they'll bring in a body. They'll arrest a criminal breaking into a car in possession of a knife. Then you've got maybe another 4 or 5 who try their best and are not too bad and a bit proactive. Then you've got another 10 who are very good at backing them up, supporting them, responding to calls. Another 4 or 5 who just don't have the skill sets and ability to spot people. And then you've got another 4 or 5 of that 30 who are complete conflict dodgers or work shy. So your biggest challenge as a police inspector is motivating and encouraging and leading your people to get involved. Well, of course, what's happened now, and I mentioned it earlier on, that they are bringing in large numbers of people who've got no background in policing from the point of view of having been a constable or sergeant, or in the past, even superintendent, and then putting them in charge of bunches of cops. And they have no idea of what it is like to go from a violent domestic incident where the children are covered in feces, to go straight to a road accident, to then be abused on the street. And there's no, people talk about canteen culture. Canteen culture is what made the police what it was. It was a place where you could sit down with your egg and chips, your cup and tea, and talk over the incidents. And the idiots who don't understand it call it bad. It was the backbone of the police. It was the support system where people unloaded and they were supported by their colleagues. We're in, I tell you now, we are in big trouble.
The problem you've got, Kevin, is that you're talking common sense, and that doesn't seem to go down too well at the moment. It's good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Kevin.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Do stay with us. Still to come, Paul Coit will be here with all your latest sports news. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In East Lothian, the A6095 is closed in both directions along Olive Bank Road in Musselburgh because of a fire on Station Road. The M6 in Lancashire is closed northbound from junction 31 at Samlesbury to 32. The M55 Broughton interchange for emergency resurfacing repairs. In Cheshire, the A534 is closed in both directions along Broxton Road between Barnhill and Clutton after an accident. The A41 also closed off the A534. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking a quarter of an hour. Delays approaching the M25 because of roadworks. Devon, the A361 is closed between South Molton and Landkey after an accident, and disruptions possible to some flights to German destinations this morning after industrial action there yesterday.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, we want to make your spring spectacular in our latest Great British giveaway. You could win £17,777 in tax-free cash.
Yes, precisely, but that's not all. You'll also win not one, but two sought-after designer watches and a designer bag. Here are all of the details that you need.
You could have £17,777 in tax-free cash to play with this spring. Cash to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you not one, but two sought-after designer watches and the latest Mulberry handbag. How would winning that sound?
Oh my God, that's brilliant news.
For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Best of luck. Paul's here. Morning.
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 Should we talk Newcastle? And
Yeah,
West
a little
Ham?
bit of that was last night in the Premier League. West Ham 0, Newcastle 1. We can call it the warm-up, although Newcastle might see it that way. West Ham will probably be insulted by that. But the Carabao Cup final, which is at the weekend when they're going to play Liverpool. So Newcastle now up to 6th in the Premier League. You know how long it's been since Newcastle won a major trophy?
10 years.
It was a lot more than that.
50 years.
Keep going.
50 years.
70 years.
Oof.
Although, it is. Although, when I did this last time, I did get a complaint saying Paul Coit should do more of his research in future because they won the Intercities Fair Cup in 1969. So when I say major trophy, that's what I... It's the old UEFA Cup, but it's not really major. It was the FA Cup, was 1955. So nothing since then. So they're going to be playing Liverpool at the weekend in the Carabao Cup final. So the result there, a good result for them, though, away at West Ham, because they've got lots of injuries. Other stuff I've got for you.
Yeah.
Huge game tonight. Liverpool against Paris Saint-Germain. Now, it's the second leg of the last 16 in the Champions League. Do you remember we spoke about this? It was like Paris Saint-Germain were all over Liverpool in Paris, but Liverpool won. Managed to win because it's about who wins. They just it was like 2 shots on goal throughout the entire game, and one of them went in. So Arne Slot, the Liverpool manager, good old Arnie, spoke yesterday.
Some people said we played poor. I don't agree. I think they played tremendously well. I don't think we faced this season a team that combined that much quality with that much intensity. But I do think we can do better. So I'm not saying we played poor or not good at all, but we are a better team than we were last week. And that's something we have to prove tomorrow with the help of our fans.
I like Arne Slot. I do like him.
Yeah, me too.
I do. I like him. I like the way he speaks. He's honest. He seems kind as well. And I just like the way he works. But huge game for Liverpool tonight. The title is done. There's no question about that. The Premier League is theirs. I know Liverpool fans will hate me for saying that, but it is. But Champions League is what they would love as well. But it's going to be a very tough game at Anfield tonight. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. Jim Ratcliffe has been very honest as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he really has. On the back page of all the newspapers is Sir Jim Ratcliffe talking about Manchester United. So he's done some interviews. And there's all these cuts. He's made a huge amount of cuts, and he's made no apology for those, saying 450 out of 1,140 staff have been made redundant. I make no apology for that. That the club has been hemorrhaging money, 7 years of losses, including, he mentioned a body language. They employed a body language expert.
Oh dear.
£175,000. That's not bad. I don't know.
That's not bad work if you can get it.
It's not, is it? I just wonder when
coming across as aggressive.
Yes, I know. Or the body language expert walks in and goes, OK, I'll get me Coke. Because they knew straight away what was going to happen. I don't know. But there was a lot of money that was going. But it's all very well cutting bits and pieces and saying that staff can't have free lunches anymore and you can't have tickets for this. You're looking at the players, because you've got players that are earning 350 grand a week. That's the first place you've got to look. And he has said this and said that, there are players that are not good enough, that are earning far too much money. He says Ruben Amorim, the manager, is doing a great job. Well, the stats don't say that, although in challenging circumstances, but of course he is going to say that about his manager. Said there's been mistakes allowing Erik ten Hag to continue after last season, appointing Dan Ashworth of sporting director, which also cost him another $4.5 million to get rid of. So he's a businessman. He's trying to run it as a business. Fans aren't happy because they want a football club, but there's got to be some sort of balance between the middle.
And you want your football club to survive.
You want it to survive, and also the most important thing is you want to win things. So
True. Indeed. Paul, thank you very much indeed.
Lots of Cheltenham stuff coming up. Begins today.
Oh, I wish I was going.
Right.
Anyway.
We've got the papers in a moment, but before that, if you fancy a bit of winter sun, here's the forecast. The top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Storm Yana brings heavy rain and also a risk of thunderstorms to western and central parts of the Mediterranean, but further east it's mostly settled. Outbreaks of rain just starting to clip into parts of Tenerife, also southern parts of Portugal and Spain, but the bulk of the heaviest rain across central parts of the Mediterranean, where we're still seeing a risk of thunderstorms as we head through into Wednesday. Largely settled across Greece, though, and remaining settled for the rest of the week, and this is where we'll see the best of the temperatures, but elsewhere still a risk of showers and temperatures in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, Egypt has discovered, well, I think it was a British and Egyptian team actually, finding the historic discovery, the long-lost tomb of King Thutmose II, the last of the lost tombs of the kings of ancient Egypt's 18th dynasty.
Yes, and it's the first royal Egyptian tomb to be discovered since King Tutankhamun's final resting place was found in 1922.
A very exciting discovery, and here to tell us all about it is the historian and author Martin Whittock. Martin, the first royal tomb since Tutankhamun.
Indeed, indeed, and identified as King Thutmose II. Other pronunciations are also available. And as you say, it's the last of the lost tombs of Egypt's 18th dynasty. They ruled between about 1550 BC and 1292 BC. It had been known before this tomb since 2022 as Tomb C4, as its occupant was then unknown. But what's happened now is parts of alabaster vessels have been found which have inscriptions bearing the name of Pharaoh Thutmose II and identifying him as the deceased king, along, interestingly, with the name of his wife, Hatshepsut. Now, she's an interesting woman because after he died, she ruled as pharaoh in her own right, one of only 2 women to do so in ancient Egyptian history. Now, the mummy of King Thutmose II was actually discovered during the 19th century at a nearby archaeological site known as Deir el-Bahari Kashet, and it's thought it was moved there after it had been looted by tomb raiders centuries ago. So the tomb is not going to give us the kind of treasures that we associate with Tutankhamun, I'm afraid, but it shows us the architecture of these royal tombs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Thing
6:47, time to have a look through the papers. We're joined this morning by Anna Firth and Jonathan Ashworth. Good to see you both this morning. Jonathan, let's start with this collision off the northeast coast. These two ships.
I mean, absolutely shocking scenes. And I think here, I mean, the Daily Mail, I think, they're asking the right question on the front page here. How did a ship carrying cyanide plough crash into this US tanker full of Navy jet fuel, a military US tanker? It's obviously horrendous. There's been, people have been saved. The pictures of it are absolutely terrible, but there are suggestions that foul play could be involved, even suggestions that this might be something to do with Russia. That has not been ruled out, and it is a reminder that
But is that conspiracy?
Well, I mean, I think when it comes to Russia, we shouldn't be giving them the benefit of the doubt. We know they are a threat to our country. They know that they are an enemy of this country. Yesterday, they were describing us as the biggest warmongers in the world. That's what they said about our country. And I don't believe our country, who has been a country fighting for civil, human rights across the world, the rule of law across the world. You know, we should be standing up for our country, not giving in to, not taking that from Russia. So that hasn't been ruled out, but obviously there's going to have to be proper investigations. But what a reminder that we live in a very uncertain world.
Yeah. I think one of the only positives to come out of this terrible story is the RNLI. As always, complete heroes in these instances, mobilised, multiple times, a fantastic charity rescuing, plucking people out.
Nothing but volunteers.
Of the North Sea. Aren't they fantastic?
They are. They're an incredible charity. They do incredible work.
Anna, I wanted to ask you about Sir David Amess, because you actually were the MP, weren't you, for Southend West, after he so tragically was killed. And yesterday, one of the most emotional press conferences I've ever seen, Katie Amess. What did you make of what she had to say yesterday, calling for that national inquiry?
Yes, well, I was at the press conference. In fact, I introduced it, and Katie was fantastic. She gave the most brilliant, eloquent account, compelling account as to why we should be having a national inquiry. You know, Sir David Amess gave 40 years of service to this country. There are lots of unanswered questions still surrounding his murder, in particular the appalling failures of the PREVENT programme. Now, the PREVENT programme is not fit for purpose, but we have now had so many incidents. We've counted 11 incidents of terror attacks since 2017. That is more than one a year, where the killers were already known to the PREVENT programme. It is high time we had a proper inquiry, yes, into Sir David, because there were multiple basic failures in his case. The killer of Sir David Amess, whose name I will never mention, was on the PREVENT programme for 2 years, identified as being one of the most serious cases, vulnerable to terrorism, on Channel. In that time, he was seen once. An interview in McDonald's in which he gave all the answers that he'd looked up online to effectively get off that programme. I mean, what a complete waste of our money. What an appalling reflection on a programme which does not do what it says it's going to do.
Jonathan, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I saw some of Katie, isn't it, interviews.
Yeah.
I mean, what a remarkable, brave young woman for speaking out in the way that she did. And I saw her briefly in a TV studio yesterday. It was actually Sky. Hope you don't mind me mentioning a rival there.
It's all right, no one's watching that one.
And I just said to her, look, David, when I was first an MP, we were on the same corridor, and that was when my two girls were very young, so I'd have them coming to see me in Parliament, running around, and he was so wonderful. He loved children. He was so lovely to my girls. I mean, I was a Labour MP, obviously. It's a different side of the House, but he was always giving me tips on how to, showing me the ropes as a new MP. What a wonderful man, and I was so sad when I heard of the tragedy. I really was. It really affected MPs from across the House, because he was such... I mean, obviously it'd affect everybody anyway, but he was held in such high regard and affection by so many.
Yes, but what about the failure of reform,
PREVENT?
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. I mean, this programme... PREVENT, this programme has continued to failed in Southport. I suspect that it could have done something around other cases as well, possibly Nottingham.
But Jonathan,
it's failed over many years.
Jonathan, can I ask you about Yvette's letter? Because Yvette Cooper has sent the family a 2-page letter in which she is suggesting that we don't have a public inquiry, we have yet another paper review. This would be the 4th paper review. I mean, that is adding insult to injury. It's disgraceful for more taxpayers' money to be wasted on a pointless paper review. We need this inquiry. If we don't have a proper inquiry and properly look at PREVENT, these terrorist attacks are going to carry on. It is a racing certainty.
Yeah, I agree. I think there should be an inquiry into PREVENT. I mean, it's failed. It's failed for years and years and years.
So do you agree that tomorrow, when we go to Downing Street and we see Keir Starmer and Yvette, do you agree that Katie's been so brave, she's made such a good case, your government should reconsider.
Yeah, I hope they do look at that again.
Thank you.
And do you think there will be MPs backing? Because one of the most striking things that Katie said yesterday was she's alone. Not a single MP stood by her, a standing MP stood by her and backed her cause.
Well, actually, Andrew Rosindell was in the press conference and he is standing by the family. Obviously, as a former MP, I'm absolutely standing by the family. And David Davis was tweeting support. And in fact, we're going to see Chris Philp tomorrow. He is supporting the family as well.
OK, look, really good to see you both this morning. We'll have a longer chat a little bit later on. Now, thank you.
Let's have a look at the weather now with Honor Krizik.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through the week, we can expect sunshine and also some showers. These showers bringing in some snow and a risk of ice, and it is going to be feeling much chillier than it has done of late. A fairly bright start across Northern Ireland, parts of England and Wales, but a chance we could see some patchy frost. Staying largely dry, though we have got plenty of showers starting to feed through from the northeast. Likely these will bring some sleet and snow, particularly across Scotland. Perhaps even northeastern parts of England could see a sprinkling of snow, and it is going to be feeling chilly, particularly in those brisk northeasterly winds. Highs of only around 10 degrees Celsius, but feeling much chillier than it has done over the last few days. So to end the day across Scotland, there's going to be plenty of cloud around, particularly across northeastern parts. Still, a chance these showers could bring in a sprinkling of sleet and snow, particularly across high ground. Similar across Northern Ireland, cloudy with plenty of showers feeding through. Still plenty of showers still across North Sea coasts as well. And throughout inland areas across England and Wales, more dry weather, but still can't rule out a few showers, particularly across Wales, once again bringing some snow towards hills. Now, through the course of the night, we'll see more and more showers feed their way in from the northeast, but where we see clearer skies, temperatures dipping away and likely to once again see quite a patchy frost by the morning, but still quite a brisk northeasterly flow, stopping a lot of frost formation, but many towns and cities still getting into the low single figures, so a chilly start as we head into Wednesday. Some patchy frost, may even see some icy stretches, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning, and still plenty of snow showers feeding in mainly across Scotland, northeastern parts of England. Once again, any snow mainly to higher ground, but we could see some flurries to lower levels too. But through the course of the day, as we see more sunshine, that snow likely to build away and still feeling very cold, particularly in those brisk winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In East Lothian, the A6095 is closed in both directions along Olive Bank Road in Musselburgh after a fire on Station Road. The M6 in Lancashire is closed northbound from junction 31 at Samlesbury to 32. The M55 Broughton interchange for emergency repairs to damage caused after an accident. Yesterday afternoon, there are queues from junction 30 for the M61 and delays too on the A6 as you divert. In Cheshire, the A534 is closed each way between Barnhill and Clutton after an accident, with the A41 also closed off the A534. In Lincolnshire, the A157 is closed each way in Gursby after an accident, and there are delays of up to half an hour to train services on the Heathrow Express into and out of Paddington Station in London after a train broke down.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
We want to spruce up your spring with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash that you can spend however you like. But that's not all, as you'll also receive not one, but two brand new designer watches and a fabulous Mulberry handbag. For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. A disaster at sea.
Foul play is not ruled out after an oil tanker and a container ship collide 10 miles off Grimsby.
Well, rescuers are now battling to avert an environmental disaster as highly toxic chemicals leak into the ocean and a crew member is still missing.
Maritime expert Simon Ashton told us this.
We are dealing with two very modern ships here. There are specific rules about how vessels conduct themselves in terms of collision avoidance when they're at sea, and hopefully soon we'll come to a conclusion on that.
Donald Trump is set to send an envoy to meet Vladimir Putin in Moscow as the United States calls for Ukraine to cede land for peace in the region.
Calls to clamp down on foreign criminals. The Conservatives put pressure on the government to deport offenders from abroad.
The Prime Minister calls the number of people out of work indefensible and unfair. We're asking this morning, is it time to end Benefits Britain?
A quarter of police are ready to resign as a sharp decline in morale threatens staff retention.
Kicking up a stink as Birmingham bin workers begin walkouts over pay.
Picket lines are expected at 8 o'clock here in Birmingham as bin workers go on all-out strike.
Fury in France. 450 migrant squatters take over a theatre in Paris with neighbours facing financial ruin.
And in the sport this morning, the Cheltenham Festival gets underway this afternoon with the highlight being the champion hurdle at 4 o'clock. Newcastle beat West Ham last night and can now focus on Liverpool for Sunday's Carabao Cup final. Talking about Liverpool, huge game for them tonight as they play Paris Saint-Germain at Anfield in the Champions League.
We can expect sunshine and showers through the week. These showers bringing snow, also a risk of ice and some sharp frost. Stay tuned and I'll be here with all the details.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
A bit of racing getting underway today, Paul.
Cheltenham Festival today.
Oh, I wish I was going.
Ellie, you really want to go, don't you?
Really want to go, but it's not really for the horses, I'll be honest. It's for the fashion.
And the champagne.
And the champagne.
See, she's that
That's why I like to go anyway, and you know that.
So it's all about the horses. It's always about the sport for you, isn't it?
Every time.
I often miss the races, to be honest. But no, the fashion's good. But unfortunately, I'm not going this year.
Well, you know the Cheltenham Roar. Are you familiar with the Cheltenham Roar?
Yes.
The Cheltenham Roar, which they say it's only for the first race. So when the Cheltenham Roar begins is the moment the tape goes up for the first race, and everybody. I don't know whether you go, yeah, because of yay or roar. I don't know whether.
No, you can't go
roar. I don't know what the Cheltenham Roar, but it is a noise. Everybody cheers, but they call it the Cheltenham Roar.
Yeah, be a cheer.
Roar.
It's because they're so excited.
Hey! Hurrah! Throw your hat up in the air. That's it.
Do you like the racing?
Not particularly.
Do you like to roar?
I do like to roar.
Okay, so
I do that frequently. No, I used to go
do your best roar.
What's the fancy one with a royal
Ascot.
I used to go to Ascot because I was invited to go and see.
Did you have the top hat and everything?
Yeah, I had to do all the whole shebang, and it was fine. But we get shoved in a box with a load of corporate-y style people, and so you never got to see anything.
It's Ellie's
That's all right. Don't moan about a box.
That's what Ellie wants to do.
Oh my gosh!
But that's not me.
Can you introduce me to your friends? I'll go.
I'm much more down with that. I'd rather be standing at the front and just rather than sat in a box eating a.
Clearing out the horses, doing all that sort of thing. That's more your sort of thing.
It really is. I know you laugh all you like.
I'm not laughing, no.
Speak for yourself. I'd love to be in the box.
But
Ascot.
one of the owners of one of the Cheltenham winners will be with us around 8:30. His name is Harry Redknapp.
Oh, yes.
Sir Harry Redknapp.
Sir Lord Harry Redknapp. Shake 'em up, Harry, which won the Stayers, which won last year at Cheltenham, is running again. Harry loves the horses. He's got one running, and Harry's going to be with us at 8:30 as well.
I love Harry.
Yeah,
Isn't he lovely?
In fact, I will roar with delight when Harry comes on.
When Harry comes on.
Yeah, good.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Paul, thank you. Now, the Coast Guard has now called off the search for a missing crew member after a ship carrying toxic chemicals collided with a US military jet fuel tanker.
Well, fires have continued to burn overnight, which are being monitored by the Coast Guard.
It took place on the North Sea, just off the East Yorkshire coast. Emergency services did manage to rescue 36 crew members.
So far, investigators haven't ruled out foul play following multiple explosions yesterday morning.
Well, earlier we spoke to a principal at the South Shields Marine School, Simon Ashton.
Specific rules about how vessels conduct themselves in terms of collision avoidance when they're at sea. And both vessels are required to keep a proper lookout at all times. So what's happened here, the investigators will find out. And hopefully soon we'll come to a conclusion on that.
But I mean, forgive me, but the jet fuel tanker would appear to have been at anchor.
That's correct, and I think on the face of it, it looks like the other vessel could be entirely to blame for this, but it's never usually that straightforward. Obviously, with the vessels on fire at the moment, it's very, very difficult for anybody to get on board. But once they do get on board, they'll be able to recover the voyage data recorders, which are very similar to an aircraft's black box, and they'll be able to determine what each vessel was doing. From what I also understand is that it was restricted visibility at the time. You know, there was a lot of fog around. So the bridges on both ships, so the Stena Immaculate would have had an anchor watch, and on the Ceylon, the bridges should have been manned greater, basically because of the restricted visibility. So the master may well have been on the bridge, or there might be an additional lookout on the bridge simply because of the fact you can't see anything.
What do we know about these two vessels and what they were carrying?
Well, the Stena Immaculate was, as you've said, was an oil tanker carrying Jet A1 fuel, very similar to kerosene, and the name itself is used in aircraft fuels. For the container vessel, it could be a number of things, but I understand from the reports that it was carrying 15 containers of sodium cyanide, and I suppose obviously it's quite worrying when you hear the word cyanide in any conversation. So there'll be measures taken place by the authorities to protect the people who are fighting the fire, who are fighting trying to prevent the pollution as well. But there'll be also emergency response procedures that will be put in place for the cargo they're carrying. The International Maritime Dangerous Goods Code will stipulate the hazards, the dangers, and how any potential leak or pollution incident should be responded to.
What impact is it likely to have on the coastline 10 miles out?
Well, at this point in time, it's very, very difficult to say, and I'm not an oceanographer, unfortunately. But obviously, there'll be the risk of pollution washing up on the beaches. Obviously, we're coming up to Easter, and if the weather is good, you could end up with oil. You could end up with lots of people going to the beaches and oil on the beaches. But at this stage, I really couldn't say what the impact of that would be.
Of course, we'll keep you fully up to date with that as we get more news through. Now, President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, is planning a visit to Moscow to meet Vladimir Putin?
Well, it's expected he'll travel to the country later this week, following the president's desire to meet with Putin and form a closer relationship with Russia.
Well, meanwhile, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio last night suggested Ukraine must concede land to Russia as part of an agreement to end the war.
Well, that's as talks between US and Ukrainian officials continue in Saudi Arabia.
And in the last hour, it's been confirmed that one person is dead in Moscow as Ukraine launched a major drone attack on the Russian city ahead of those peace talks.
Well, let's get more with the Deputy Editor of Spite, Fraser Myers. Good to see you this morning,
Good morning.
Fraser. And is it wise for the US to be engaging with Russia in this way? And should we follow suit?
Well, I think the US does have to engage with Russia. I think what will raise eyebrows is the level of friendliness displayed towards Russia and the level of, I suppose, really about the abandonment of Ukraine. You know, Ukraine was our ally, Russia was our adversary, and it seems as if sometimes, listening to some of the things coming out of the US, watching that meeting, that infamous meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky, that many in the Trump administration see Ukraine as almost the enemy and the problem to be overcome. I mean, you think about how, you know, OK, Trump has threatened sanctions on Russia, but what has it done to Ukraine? It's withdrawn military aid, withdrawn intelligence sharing. These are having real impacts on the battlefield. These are leading to the loss of life. It's emboldened Russia. I mean, far from encouraging peace, it's emboldened Russia to further its attacks on parts of Ukraine. So, no, I don't think this is the right way to engage it. I think people can agree that the goal of ending the war is a good thing. Whether we see, perhaps we'll see some results soon, but so far it doesn't look good.
I mean, Marco Rubio coming out and saying that Ukraine is going to have to cede some land. I mean, the territory is about 20%, isn't it, of Ukraine that's been taken so far. That doesn't include Crimea from the last decade. I mean, it's very difficult to understand why Ukraine would agree to that.
Well, what's surprising is that I think everyone would understand that, given that, you know, Russia occupies this land at the moment, probably a peace deal would involve a transfer of land. But you want to know, why are they saying this from the outset? Why are they giving away what all of Ukraine's cards at the very beginning of the negotiations, before they've even started, and seemingly not asking much of Russia in return? Perhaps Russia wants to stop for a bit. Perhaps, you know, as Zelensky warned, a ceasefire might just be a pretext for them to stop and rearm. They could go along with that. What people are missing, or what people want to know, is what is there that's going to keep Russia to any peace deal that gets agreed.
And why would Russia come to the table at this point? Because they're doing well with the advances that they're making because of a lack of US intelligence and US aid for Ukraine at the moment.
Well, that's exactly right. It seems as if, you know, given the way the US is acting, you know, they are strengthening Russia's hand and incentivising them to prolong the war and the attacks. Now, perhaps this is what the drone attack on Moscow is designed to remind people of, that, you know, Ukraine does have fighting capability, that Russians themselves are at risk. I mean, we may remember, you know, Ukraine taking a part of Russia, bringing the war home effectively to Moscow. But, yeah, that general point still stands. What is in it for Russia? Perhaps this is what the meeting with Steve Witkoff, you know, we might learn more after that. Trump sent his special envoy, property developer, man after Trump's own heart. They met in a deli at 3 a.m. in New York in the 1980s, have been best buddies ever since then. Witkoff started off as the sort of Middle East envoy, managed to knock heads together in Gaza. Perhaps they're hoping he can sort of repeat the trick with Putin. But, yeah, we don't really know. It's not really clear what the US's tactics are in relation to Russia. It seems to just be being soft on them, hoping that they'll see the US as a potential ally, or at least a neutral force.
What about the US tactics when it comes to the economy? Trade wars underway. I mean, it put Trump he seemed to be in a very strong position with it all, you know, taking the initiative, saying what he was going to do. And yet the economy in the States seems to be tanking as a result. The markets do, anyway. And it's also having a global impact.
Yeah, I think that many people would have understood. In Trump's first term, he imposed tariffs on China. There's, you know, a lot of justification for that. China is said to not play by the rules when it comes to sort of free trade. It's often accused of stealing US technology, things like that. a lot of people were baffled to see Trump suddenly levying tariffs on allies like Canada and Mexico. At some point, you could have said, well, he's negotiating better terms of trade. He's asking for certain things like immigration enforcement. He's asking for things like better control of fentanyl across the border. But, now we have this sort of will he, won't he tariff, spat. It's very unclear, and the market's reacting to this. The US stock market has plummeted. Around 1.6 trillion has been wiped off the stock market, wiping off a huge, many, many months of gains there. And Trump was someone who used to love taking credit for stock market gains. The stock market is not the same as the real economy, but lots of people's savings are tied up in it. Lots of people's pensions are tied up in it. And there are warnings potentially of a recession, a self-imposed recession. Could there be a longer-term benefit to this? That's what the Trump administration would say. They say they want to bring back US manufacturing. They say that other countries have got too good a deal, selling their stuff to the US, not buying enough American products. That remains to be seen. That might be true in the long run. The aim of restoring US manufacturing is a good one, but I'm not sure that this trade war is the way to go about it.
OK. Fraser Myers, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much.
All right, well, that's our poll of the day today. Do you think Trump's tariffs will spark a global recession? We'll have live results throughout the day. Final result in Martin's show later. And if you would like to take part, go to gbnews.com/poll.
Now, at 14 minutes past 7, bin workers in Birmingham are set to go on indefinite strike over pay and working conditions.
The walkouts, which began in January, are due to go ahead despite reports of overflowing bins and, not surprisingly, rat infestation.
Well, members of Unite voted for today's all-out strike last month.
Let's talk to our reporter, Steve Bennett, who's there. Morning, Steve.
Good morning to you both. Yeah, that's right. The bin workers are about to go on all-out strike. Picket lines are expected very shortly. And it goes back to a long-running dispute with Birmingham City Council over them making the position of Waste and Recycling Collection Officer redundant. Now, Unite say this is a safety critical role as part of a 4-person bin crew, and the role actively day-to-day is to look after the bin crew during waste collection and deal with live issues. Birmingham City Council deny this to be the case and say that removing that position brings waste collection in line with other local authorities. Now, Unite say that 150 bin workers are set to lose approximately £8,000 a year if they're forced to retrain for other positions. And Birmingham City Council have responded by saying they've made an offer of around £7,000 to those workers affected, which some have accepted. Now, there's a second issue here as well, where Birmingham City Council have been using agency workers to plug the gap for striking staff, which Unite say is unlawful and undermines their strike action. Unite General Secretary Sharon Graham has said that the use of employment agencies to try and break the strike is disgraceful, and let me be clear that our members will not back down from the brutal attacks launched on them, and neither will Unite. Now, you have to feel for local residents here because the rubbish is piling up around the city. There's reports of rat infestations, and yesterday 4,000 residents signed an online petition to call for immediate end to this from Birmingham City Council, as it's becoming a real issue for this city. So hopefully we'll get the views of those bin workers striking on the picket line shortly, and I'll keep you updated throughout the day.
OK, Steve, thank you. It's one of the worst things that can happen. I'm of that generation, I don't know if it's changed now, where it was always, you were always threatened if you didn't work hard enough at school, or you'd end up being a bin man. Then it's not a job that people that is looked at with a great deal of affection.
Yeah, or respect.
But I tell you what, when bin men and women stop working, you've got a problem.
You will know about it.
We should show them more respect. We really should, because it's a mucky job.
It's hard graft as well.
Oh, yeah.
Early start. Yeah, really difficult.
And when they decide, for whatever reason, they're not going to do it, we're all in a whole heap of trouble.
Yeah, I was reading this morning that in some parts of Birmingham, the rubbish heaps look alive. And it's just with a rat infestation.
Yeah, I bet.
Awful.
What a mess it's going to be clearing that up whenever that happens.
Oh, yes. Very true.
Yeah, grim.
Yeah, well, let's hope the weather's not grim. Should we get a check on it with Honor Krizik?
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through the week, we can expect sunshine and also some showers. These showers bringing in some snow and a risk of ice, and it is going to be feeling much chillier than it has done of late. A fairly bright start across Northern Ireland, parts of England and Wales, but a chance we could see some patchy frost. Staying largely dry, though we have got plenty of showers starting to feed through from the northeast. Likely these will bring some sleet and snow, particularly across Scotland. Perhaps even northeastern parts of England could see a sprinkling of snow, and it is going to be feeling chilly, particularly in those brisk northeasterly winds. Highs of only around 10 degrees Celsius, but feeling much chillier than it has done over the last few days. So to end the day across Scotland, there's going to be plenty of cloud around, particularly across northeastern parts. Still, a chance these showers could bring in a sprinkling of sleet and snow, particularly across high ground. Similar across Northern Ireland, cloudy with plenty of showers feeding through. Still plenty of showers still across North Sea coasts as well. And throughout inland areas across England and Wales, more dry weather, but still can't rule out a few showers, particularly across Wales, once again bringing some snow towards hills. Now, through the course of the night, we'll see more and more showers feed their way in from the northeast, but where we see clearer skies, temperatures dipping away and likely to once again see quite a patchy frost by the morning, but still quite a brisk northeasterly flow, stopping a lot of frost formation, but many towns and cities still getting into the low single figures, so a chilly start as we head into Wednesday. Some patchy frost, may even see some icy stretches, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning, and still plenty of snow showers feeding in, mainly across Scotland, northeastern parts of England. Once again, any snow mainly to higher ground, but we could see some flurries to lower levels too. But through the course of the day, as we see more sunshine, that snow likely to build away and still feeling very cold, particularly in those brisk winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, how do you fancy a load of cash?
I would love a load of cash.
OK, how about £17,777?
That sounds very good and very precise.
Tax-free. I don't know why. I've been asking all weekend, why is it that much money? I don't know, but it sort of sounds nice, doesn't it?
It sounds good, yeah. I don't know why they settled on that number, but yes.
It would look nice on a cheque.
It would.
Anyway, no, you don't only get the cash, you get those watches as well. 2 designer watches and a designer handbag.
Oh, you'd really look and feel the part this spring, wouldn't you?
Well, I don't fancy the handbag, but you could have it.
I'd have that. You could gift it to me.
OK.
But unfortunately, we can't win, but you can. Here are all of the details that you need.
You could have £17,777 in tax-free cash to play with this spring. Cash to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you not 1, but 2 sought-after designer watches and the latest Mulberry handbag. How would winning that sound?
Oh my God, that's brilliant news.
For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck. Still to come, is it time that we end Benefits Britain? We're going to be debating that next.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
Could Doctor Who be for the chop after more than 60 years? Well, here to explain why there's a lot of rumour, a buzz about this story is the GB News entertainment editor, Alex Davies. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
What on earth is going on?
Well, this has all sort of come around because the reports have emerged that the lead actor, Ncuti Gatwa, is planning on leaving. He's only been there for 2 years, but apparently he's already eyeing up the exit door. He wants to reportedly set up a new life in LA. He's got countless Hollywood opportunities lined up for him, according to reports. And the reports are also suggesting his team aren't too fond of some of the woke storylines that have emerged in the last few years. The series has come under fire a number of times. There's been several storylines that have been criticised for pushing certain narratives. They cast a black actor as Isaac Newton, for one. There are other examples, including misgendering aliens.
Do aliens have gender?
Well, you'd be surprised, apparently. There's one called a meep that David Tennant, who briefly reprised his role before Ncuti, he got the meep, their gender, wrong and was pulled up about it by a trans character.
Just very forced, it seems. Very forced. We need to get in the gender nouns and the pronouns. But there was also a bit of heat just for having a female doctor, wasn't there? Jodie Whittaker.
There was, but I feel like that's always going to get heat. When you take a fictional character, a fictional institution, which has been white men predominantly, and you put something that goes against that, you're going to get attention. This one in particular, like I say, with these sort of storylines, has garnered more attention than most.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. It's 7:25. Now, Rachel Reeves has caused controversy among Labour MPs over plans to cut £4 billion from welfare benefits.
Sickness benefit claimants could face health checks, whilst those who lose their jobs could be granted more than long-term claimants.
So, this morning we're asking, is it time to end Benefits Britain?
Well, let's talk to the head of campaigns at the Taxpayers Alliance, Elliot Keck, and political commentator Samuel Sweek. Good to see you both this morning. Samuel, can we start with you on this one? I mean, if there is some slack in the system, isn't there? Would you agree with that? So we need to try and trim out the fat, as it were?
No, I disagree entirely. I think that we have a wholly inadequate welfare package in this country, which more often than not is pushing people to the brink of poverty. In fact, last week the UN actually warned the UK government that it is infringing on the rights of the sick and disabled in this country because of its policies. You know, that's inherited from the Conservative government that left us last year. But Labour now don't appear to be willing to do anything to rectify that. In fact, they're clamping down on people who are either signed off from work or even actually in work because claimants are actually working.
I mean, the argument is that people who are able to work should work, and certainly for long-term sickness and things, it's how do you encourage them to get back to work if you're supplying, you know, at least a livable salary without them going in?
Well, I mean, I think this is the point, isn't it? Is that the incentive to work in this country is incredibly low. I don't understand or see how cutting people's any sort of welfare is going to actually. I mean, what's the plan to starve people into work? I don't think that's exactly a great idea. What they do need to be doing is making work actually pay, and we need to be giving a pay rise to workers in this country. We need to actually have a system in place that supports people through difficult times, whether that be with their mental or physical health. And as I said, doesn't essentially starve them into getting jobs that they may not be able to actually continue to hold down because of their health conditions.
Elliot Keck, what do you make of it all?
Well, I certainly agree with Samuel on the need to incentivise work. At the moment, the tax system does thoroughly disincentivise work. But We know a few things about the country. We know that the national debt's about 100% of GDP. We know that the tax burden's heading for a record high. We know public spending is heading for a record high. And we also know that the top 1% already contribute 30% of income tax, along with a range of other taxes. We also know that we're going to have to increase spending, particularly on defence, probably to 3% of GDP, and probably to more, and at the same time we have incredibly anemic growth. So we need to find cuts somewhere. On this point about fat to trim, we could argue about the terminology, but the reality is that benefit spending on just people in work has risen from 36 billion before the pandemic to 48 billion now. That's heading to 65 billion by the end of the decade. This is an increase that has not been seen in comparable countries. We are almost unique in the developed world for a massive surge in the number of people of working age who are claiming benefits. Every other country has seen a return to their pre-pandemic status. We haven't. That's clearly a problem. I don't think it's because the British people are uniquely lazy. It's because of the incentive structure that we provide them.
Samuel?
No, I think that we need to, as I said, look at giving the country a pay rise. We need to be investing in our workforce, not cutting away at the edges. And it's interesting as well to see...
but how do we do that? How do we do that?
By giving the country a pay rise.
Well, we haven't got the... Where's the money going to come from? I mean, the point is, to get the country to work, we need to grow the economy. Well, if you're going to force employers and others to fork out more money...
Well, I mean, yeah, no, sure, we can talk about that. And what we could say in this country is tax avoidance costs this country billions every single year. In fact, it's estimated that about £500 billion of UK wealth is stashed away in tax havens. What we need to be doing is closing those loopholes which make that a possibility, and also looking at a wealth tax in this country of just a modest 1% of that could bring in over 20 billion for the UK economy every single year. We shouldn't be trimming away or violently cutting away at the support for the sick and disabled in this country. We should be looking at where the wealth is unevenly distributed and actually ensure that it is distributed into our communities, lift people out of poverty, make work actually worth doing, and support those with long-term sickness, if they're able to eventually get back into work, but not forcing them, not forcing their hand by pushing them into poverty. That's immoral.
I mean, listen, wealth taxes have been tried in Ireland, they've been tried in France, they've been tried in Sweden. Every single time they've catastrophically failed, every single time they've led to mass capital flight. If there's one way to ensure that wealth flees this country, and if there's one way to cripple the taxation system and ensure that not only can we not afford the benefit system we have now, we can't afford a benefit system at all, it would be to implement a wealth tax. The simple reality is as I said, we are unique in the developed world at seeing benefits, in particular benefits for those of working age, and in particular benefits for people with mental health issues, which are soaring. It's one of the biggest growing parts of the benefit system. We are unique in the developed world and not seeing that return to pre-pandemic levels. I think at the very least, we just need to see that return to pre-pandemic levels. We haven't yet seen that much detail from the Chancellor. We need to ensure that she's not just going after low-hanging fruit. Unfortunately, often governments go after people that don't have the wherewithal to challenge changes to the benefit system. So that's a key thing we need to look at. And also we need to ensure that work is incentivised. That's not by things like the national minimum wage. That's like changing tax thresholds, for example. That's like reducing pressures on businesses to ensure they can grow and expand and hire more people.
Is there any acceptance, Samuel, that some people ride the system? I mean, it's not having a go at them. It's just if it's an easy way to get money and easier than going out and getting a job.
I think people certainly ride the tax system in this country by avoiding it, Stephen. I think that
what about the benefit system, though? Because that's what we're talking about.
Who am I to say? I think what we need to do is have a very personalised approach to people who are claiming sickness benefits, to actually, as I said, support them. That way we get a better understanding of what people's situation is, and that way we can help them. We don't, as I said, a blanket cut on every single person will just be incredibly damaging. But as I said, if people are gaming the system, it's the super rich who are dodging billions and billions in tax every single year that belongs to our communities.
Gentlemen, we've got to leave it there, I'm afraid. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Lots of you getting in touch already. Alison says the welfare state was the biggest act of self-harm this country has ever done. Labour need to save money. If people are able to work, they shouldn't get a penny in benefits. And Jazz has been in touch saying you should be living in or on the brink of poverty if you're on benefits. It should encourage you to get a job. There's your views so far?
Just a quick thought on that, Samuel. You don't look too impressed.
I mean...
No, don't like that.
No.
OK.
Don't like that at all.
Well, look, keep your thoughts coming through. gbnews.com/your say. And Paul's going to be here with the sport in just a moment.
latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In East Lothian, Olive Bank Road in Musselburgh is closed because of a fire. The M6 in Lancashire is closed northbound from junction 31 at Samlesbury to 32 for the M55. Repairs after an accident yesterday. There are queues from junction 30 for the M61 and delays on the A6 as you divert. In Cheshire, the A534 is closed each way between Barnhill and Clutton after an accident, with the A41 also closed there. On the M25 in Essex, there are anti-clockwise delays heading away from junction 30 for the A13 towards 28 for the A12 after an accident. On the M4 in London, there's a lane closed eastbound just before junction 3 at Heston, where a lorry's broken down, causing queues. And on the M5 near Bristol, 3 out of 4 lanes are closed southbound after an accident between junctions 19 and 20 from Portishead to Clevedon, with long delays towards there. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dube & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here with an exclusive opportunity just for you, our incredible GB News viewers. We're giving you the opportunity to win a VIP studio tour right here at GB News HQ. Plus, you'll also get to meet yours truly. It's easy to enter, just head to gbnews.com/community competition and follow the easy steps. Don't miss out, enter now, and I'll see you soon at GB News. Full T's and C's apply.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Should we look at the sport?
I think we should.
Mr. Paul Coyte is here. Good morning.
Good morning. Cheltenham Festival's been going since 1860.
Oh, they must be tired by now.
Well, it's quite, yes, yeah. That's 1860 last night. You remember there was... I used to always love the... someone's just gone, what a hilarious gag. Right. You know, there was... Lord Oaksey was... I remember when I was a kid, used to... He always had a thing where he'd have his hat and he would doff his hat at the start of the racing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, familiar with his word?
No, but we'll take your word for it, yeah.
OK, or... well, anyway, let's talk about the Cheltenham Festival since 1860. 28 races over 4 days. The big races include the Cheltenham Gold Cup, which is Friday, which is the big one.
Oh, yes,
although today is the Champion Hurdle. There's the Queen Mother Champion Chase, which is on Wednesday. The Cheltenham Roar that I mentioned earlier, which is the noise the moment the tape goes up for the first race just after lunchtime. Today is when everybody will shout and roar and will be heard for miles around. We haven't quite worked out what the roar is.
No.
Whether it's a yay or a hurrah or a woo. That's the Cheltenham Whoop. That's for the next day.
Oh, yes, that's slightly different.
So it's the Champion Day today. Tomorrow used to be called Ladies' Day, but now can't call it Ladies' Day these days.
What would you call it then?
It's now Style Wednesday.
Oh, no.
Style Wednesday.
Ladies' Day is the best day.
No, I'm all for that.
You're all for Style Wednesday?
I'm all for it, because why should the women have all the fun? Why should it be focused on the women?
Because the women are the glam ones.
Because girls just want to have fun, that's why.
Make all the effort. We have to hire the suits.
OK, fine.
No, I miss Ladies' Day. I think it's the best day of the week.
Well, it's still the same. It's just by name. That's the only difference. Style Wednesday. St Patrick's Thursday. I think we know why. And then Gold Cup Day on Friday. Harry Redknapp's going to be with us in about an hour's time.
I'm looking
because
forward to
his
that.
horse, Shake 'em Up Harry, is going in the plate again that he won last year. So he's going to be with us tomorrow. And also, I have a couple of tips for you.
Ooh.
Oh, good.
How do you feel about it? It always makes me nervous when I have tips, but I've spoken to some high rollers, shall we say, in the racing business.
Okay.
And I always go with outsiders, so it's all very easy to go for the favourite.
You've got to go for
so
outsiders.
if you want to have a go for an outsider, and you know, if you want to have a go at this, here's a couple of horses. The 240, which is the Ultima handicap chase. So go each way on the Changing Man at 7-1 is my tip. And the other one, which is the Princess Royal National Hunt Challenge Cup Novices handicap chase at 5:20 is called Hastings. And that's Hastings, and that is 14-1.
Why have you picked those?
Well, because someone told me those.
Who's been told?
Because I wouldn't choose them because I wouldn't trust myself. It's someone else who's in the industry has suggested these to me. So there we
You're going to guard your sources.
Are you going to put your money where your mouth is?
Well, we'll have to see. You know,
no.
It's a fool's way. You don't want to get involved, but if you were for fun, there we are. There's our each way bets for
Thank you.
Cheltenham today.
Just a quick one.
Yes.
On Liverpool PSG because it's a big match.
Yeah, it is a huge game. So Liverpool played PSG. It's the last 16 of the Champions League. 1-0 it was. Last week, the Liverpool won in Paris. How they got away with it, we still don't know because it really was a smash and grab. But PSG are going to want the win. They're going all out at Anfield tonight. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. So that's tonight, and whoever wins, well, it's PSG are 1-0 down, but whoever goes through will go through to the last 8 of the Champions League. So Liverpool already in the League Cup final at the weekend, and looks like pretty much certain they're going to win the Premier League. So it really is a good season for them. But Champions League is always something they want to win.
OK, Quitty, thank you very much.
What? Are you calling time on that?
Yeah, it's 40. We've got to do the...
Oh.
Well, you know what? I've got birthdays. You don't even play birthdays. I've never, ever seen
Do we have
Ellie
time
not
for
want to
very quick
play.
birthdays?
Yes, we have. Go on.
Yeah, I've got
Go
time for
on.
very quick birthdays.
Just wouldn't be the
She's
same.
playing at.
I know. Andy Robertson's birthday.
Oh.
Liverpool player Andy Robertson's birthday. He'd like to be celebrating against PSG tonight. How old is Andy Robertson today?
27.
27. I undercooked this, I've got to tell you.
Oh.
27?
31.
Sorry?
31.
Is the right answer. Very good. One more, Didier Drogba.
Didier Drogba.
Legendary Chelsea striker Didier Drogba. How old is Didier today?
48.
53.
47, very
I'm
good.
on
I've got one
fire.
more for you. Quick question. In 1990, this day in 1990, Jennifer Capriati reached the final of the Virginia Slims in Florida to become the youngest player ever to do so in a professional tournament. How old was she?
Oh.
16.
16?
17. 14.
13.
Oh.
Wow.
She was 13.
Wow.
Honestly, would you let your 13-year-old start playing professional tennis? No, I wouldn't.
Would you allow a tournament?
Ben Leo would, but I
Ben
would.
Leo would, yeah.
Would you
He
have
so would.
a tournament called the Virginia Slims?
Yes, that's
nowadays?
it. Wasn't that the name of cigarette? Were there cigarettes, wasn't it?
cigarettes,
Yeah. Yeah, you can't have a tennis tournament named after a packet of fags, would you?
No, not anymore.
By the way, the Virginia Slims is not going anymore.
No, I'm not surprised.
No.
It's called the Benson and Hedges.
Right, Paul, get out. We've got the papers in a sec, but first let's have a look at the top hotspots in Europe.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Storm Yana brings heavy rain and also risk of thunderstorms to western and central parts of the Mediterranean, but further east it's mostly settled. Outbreaks of rain just starting to clip into parts of Tenerife, also southern parts of Portugal and Spain, but the bulk of the heaviest rain across central parts of the Mediterranean, where we're still seeing a risk of thunderstorms as we head through into Wednesday. Largely settled across Greece though, and remaining settled for the rest of the week, and this is where we'll see the best of the temperatures, but elsewhere still a risk of showers and temperatures in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And the BAFTA-winning actress, Daisy May Cooper, isn't holding back about what she thinks about Shakespeare. She thinks it's time to ditch the lot.
Well, comparing his plays to studying EastEnders in 600 years' time, she says that kids would be better off learning from TV dramas. But is she onto something, or is the Bard still a class act?
Sometimes it's better not to say anything, isn't it? Anyway, joining us to discuss this is the lifestyle journalist and parenting expert, Annette Kello. Annette, is studying Shakespeare these days the same as if you forced children in 600 years' time to study Pat Butcher?
Exactly. I mean, Pat Butcher's earrings to start with, maybe studying those in 600 years. But I think whilst she has a point that it is very old, I think we need to bring it up to speed and not scrap it, but reimagine it so that people today can learn it. The plays are quite long, which might be quite hard for kids to decipher. But I do think there's something in keeping it. We know that there's loads of words. I think it's 1,700 words that Shakespeare invented. And come on, which ones do you know? Swagger?
Oh, we were talking...
Addiction?
This is cheating, because we were talking a bit about this in the break. But assassination, critic, majestic...
Swagger.
and phrases, like, it's all Greek to me. I mean, these things that just roll off the tongue. I mean, it's so important, actually, for understanding our own language more than anything else.
Exactly, and actually Jay-Z quoted that he takes inspiration from Shakespeare because apparently there's something to do with the rhythm that is similar to rapping. So I think things like that can be a really good lesson for children to kind of get it wise.
I mean, I can imagine it's very hard to teach Shakespeare these days to young children because they are the TikTok generation.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
"7:45, let's have a look through the papers with Anna Firth and Jonathan Ashworth. Morning to you both. Anna, let's have a look at the Telegraphs and the Times as well. Looking at reform. What's going on with reform at the moment?
Well, it's absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? You know, they're in complete and utter chaos. They've lost...
Any more than any other party?
Oh, no, come on. I mean, you know, whatever... Rupert Lowe, new MP, no one could say he hasn't been a very active MP, asking endless parliamentary questions, good questions, frankly, of Yvette Cooper and the failing Labour government, particularly on immigration, and now he's been ousted. I think one of the most outrageous allegations is something about him having dementia. I mean, of all of the reform MPs, he's the least likely to have any sort of problem.
But wouldn't you be kicking off if it is allegations had been made against him, and if it is found eventually that he had done something wrong and nothing had happened to him from the party perspective, you'd be kicking off saying what a disgrace.
I think he's got a absolute complete right to kick off and to say that this is outrageous. I mean, the most worrying thing is here is a party who is putting itself forward to run the country. It can't even run a party of 5 people, and it seems to come down to the ego of Nigel Farage.
I mean, that's absolutely right, isn't it? Nigel Farage wants to run the country. Well, he couldn't run a bath based on this, could he? I mean, they do look like a clown show at the moment. But in the end, at the next general election, Reform will be held to account for the policies they put forward, for the fact that Nigel Farage has talked about, you know, charges in the NHS. That'd be 15 grand for a hip replacement. Who wants to pay that? And that, I think, he would wave the white flag to Putin. They are so pro-Russia in the Reform Party, and that's not in our national security interest. But this is a complete mess.
It's not. Well, the truth is, there's focus on it because there are only 5 MPs, or 4 now, and because they're riding so well, not only in the polls, but in the general public and their membership numbers and all the rest of it. Now, someone having a falling out in a political party, heck, it happens with your lot all the time, Anna. It happens with your lot, Jonathan, all the time.
But this is 20% of their parliamentary party.
And this is going to cut their parliamentary activity by 50%. That's how active an MP, Rupert Lowe, has actually been. And let's not forget, Nigel has form on this. You know, he's on his third political party now. He's fallen out with every other person in his party.
Well, he was saying last night he doesn't fall out with anybody. People fall out with him.
Well, the question you've got to ask yourself, Ellie, is Nigel's ego big enough or too big to allow him to get through any door, including number 10?
Well, I tell you what, this has all come about because Rupert Lowe slagged off Nigel Farage in an interview in the Daily Mail, and Nigel Farage has thrown his toys out of the pram. If he is so sensitive to such minor criticism, how's he going to cope if he ever got to elected office? You know, he's clearly very insecure. But you've got to have a thick skin to be able to deal with the big issues in the world.
Yeah, but the argument he would make back to that is this is nothing to do with that article. This is to do with allegations of violence.
Yeah, pull the other one. This is about that article. If Rupert Lowe hadn't slagged him off in that article, this wouldn't be happening. That shows you how insecure and prickly Nigel Farage is. How easy it is to get under his skin and wind him up. When you're negotiating and dealing with leaders across the world and dealing with people like Putin, do we really want somebody who is so weak? Nah.
Oh, well, let us know what you think about that one. Jonathan, in The Telegraph, Wes Streeting is going to cut NHS office jobs by 50%.
Yeah.
Of course, you're former Shadow
Yeah,
Health.
I did it for a long time, that job.
Yeah, you did indeed.
So this is about an organisation called NHS England. It's actually possibly the biggest quango in the country. It was one of the... Do you remember there was a guy called Andrew Lansley who did these big disruptive reforms to the NHS? He introduced it. There's a feeling that it's lost its way, and what Wes Streeting is trying to do, because he wants to bring down these huge waiting lists in NHS, he wants to deliver the care that patients deserve. He wants to make sure that people can see their GP in the morning, and he thinks there's too much management at the top, and we can actually cut it out, and it can be much more directed by him as the Health Secretary. So big changes to cut out some of the bureaucracy in the NHS there.
Anna, this is common sense, isn't it?
Well, if Wes Streeting delivers that, you know, good luck to him, because absolutely the NHS is way overstaffed. You know, the number of managers in the NHS, tens of thousands of managers, when what we actually need are more doctors and more nurses. So I totally agree, and you know, I hope he succeeds on this.
Well, let's hope so. Anna, let's stay with you, shall we? Look at the front page of the Daily Telegraph today, and this is farmers being hit again. This time, a land grab, as it's being described.
Well, I mean, honestly, this is completely outrageous, isn't it? I mean, you know, this is Red Rainer's plan to bulldoze over the country and, you know, fill it with more solar farms and wind farms to meet Mad Ed's clean energy targets. But the suggestion that the state can wade in and force people to sell their land, you know, possibly for less than its current value, is absolutely outrageous. You know, we should recognise that if people own land, they have their own property rights. You know, we're not communist Russia, are we? And yet Red Rainer thinks we are.
Compulsory purchase orders are not a new thing. They've been going on for dead generations, including under your government.
That's true, but what's very different about this is if there's a piece of national infrastructure, a hospital, something that's vitally needed, yes, the state does need to have that power.
And that's what Labour's saying, it's homes and hospitals they've listed.
Yeah, but what's so different here is if you're going to force people to sell their own land, their own property, they have to be properly compensated. They have to be given the value as if it had been developed. What Red Rainer's trying to do here is snatch people's property at just its current value. It's outrageous.
Yes, its current value in order to build homes because young people can't get on the housing ladder. That is the problem. The Tories promised to do things like this. The Tories complained about so-called land banking, but every time that Tories, all of them, Cameron, Johnson, Sunak, the whole parade of them, said they were going to build houses, the Tory MPs blocked it. This Labour government is getting on and building houses so young people across this country can get on the housing ladder. Labour believes in a property-owning democracy. The dream of home ownership should not be blocked for our young people.
But you can understand why farmers feel aggrieved, because a lot of it is going to be farmland. They already feel under attack.
Well, they're banking this land so they can sell it at a higher price in the future. Yeah, a higher price in the future. This is about giving them their current land. We've got to build homes for our people. That's what we need. Our young people need to get on this. We've got to do that as well. I mean, it was mad that you have bits of brownfield not developed. So we're going to do that as well.
Red Rainer's rationale for this is for major infrastructure projects. This is going to be bulldozing over our
Margaret
countryside.
Thatcher would agree with this. Margaret Thatcher was in favour of giving people homes. You call that communism. I call that creating a wealth-owning, asset-owning, property-owning democracy.
Margaret Thatcher was in favour of people who were already in homes that had already been built, namely council homes, having the right to buy those homes. She was not in favour of bulldozing over the countryside for Mad Ed's clean energy projects.
All right.
Okay,
We've got to leave it there. See you later on.
Thank you very much. Check on the weather now with Anna.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through the week, we can expect sunshine and also some showers. These showers bringing in some snow and a risk of ice, and it is going to be feeling much chillier than it has done of late. A fairly bright start across Northern Ireland, parts of England and Wales, but a chance we could see some patchy frost. Staying largely dry, though we have got plenty of showers starting to feed through from the northeast. Likely these will bring some sleet and snow, particularly across Scotland. Perhaps even northeastern parts of England could see a sprinkling of snow, and it is going to be feeling chilly, particularly in those brisk northeasterly winds. Highs of only around 10 degrees Celsius, but feeling much chillier than it has done over the last few days. So to end the day across Scotland, there's going to be plenty of cloud around, particularly across northeastern parts. Still, a chance these showers could bring in a sprinkling of sleet and snow, particularly across high ground. Similar across Northern Ireland, cloudy with plenty of showers feeding through. Still plenty of showers still across North Sea coasts as well. And throughout inland areas across England and Wales, more dry weather, but still can't rule out a few showers, particularly across Wales, once again bringing some snow towards hills. Now, through the course of the night, we'll see more and more showers feed their way in from the northeast, but where we see clearer skies, temperatures dipping away and likely to once again see quite a patchy frost by the morning, but still quite a brisk northeasterly flow, stopping a lot of frost formation, but many towns and cities still getting into the low single figures, so a chilly start as we head into Wednesday. Some patchy frost, may even see some icy stretches, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning, and still plenty of snow showers feeding in, mainly across Scotland, northeastern parts of England. Once again, any snow mainly to higher ground, but we could see some flurries to lower levels too. But through the course of the day, as we see more sunshine, that snow likely to build away and still feeling very cold, particularly in those brisk winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M77 in Glasgow is partly blocked northbound by an accident at junction 1 at Dumbreck Road, causing delays. The M6 in Lancashire is closed northbound between junctions 31 and 32 from Samlesbury to the M55 for repairs after an accident yesterday afternoon. There are queues from junction 30 to the M61 and delays too on the A6 as you divert. In Cheshire, the A534 is closed each way between Barnhill and Clutton after an accident, with the A41 also closed there. In Essex, the A12 is partly blocked southbound by an accident between junctions 19 and 18 near Chelmsford, causing delays. On the M25 in Essex, there are 2 lanes closed anti-clockwise just before junction 29 for the A127 after an accident, with queues from junction 30 for the A13. And on the M5 near Bristol, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between junctions 19 and 20 from Portishead to Clevedon, causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
You could have £17,777 in tax-free cash to play with this spring. Cash to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you not one, but 2 sought-after designer watches and the latest Mulberry handbag. How would winning that sound? For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. A disaster at sea.
Foul play is not ruled out after an oil tanker and a container ship collide 10 miles off Grimsby.
Well, rescuers are now battling to avert an environmental disaster as highly toxic chemicals leak into the ocean and a crew member is still missing.
Fires are still burning on an oil tanker carrying jet fuel and a cargo ship carrying highly toxic chemicals after they collided on Monday morning. We'll have the latest very soon.
Moscow is hit by a massive drone attack. 1 civilian is confirmed dead as Ukraine launches its largest ever bombardment on the city. It comes as Donald Trump prepares to send an envoy to meet Vladimir Putin in Russia.
And today, the United States and Ukraine meeting in Saudi Arabia. Zelensky is not directly in those talks, but will be hoping that things go rather more smoothly than in the Oval Office just over a week ago.
Calls to clamp down on foreign criminals. The Conservatives put pressure on the government to deport offenders from abroad.
The Prime Minister calls the number of people out of work indefensible and unfair. We're asking this morning, is it time to end Benefits Britain?
A quarter of police ready to resign as a sharp decline in morale threatens staff retention.
Kicking up a stink as Birmingham bin workers begin walkouts over pay.
And picket lines have started here in Birmingham as bin workers go on all-out strike.
Fury in France. 450 migrant squatters take over a theatre in Paris with neighbours facing financial ruin.
And in sport this morning, Sir Jim Radcliffe has called some of Manchester United's players overpaid and not good enough. Tell us something we don't know. Huge game for Liverpool tonight as Paris Saint-Germain head to Anfield in the Champions League. And the famous roar will be heard as the tape goes up this afternoon for the first day of the Cheltenham Festival. And a Cheltenham winner from last year, Harry Redknapp, will join us in about 20 minutes.
We can expect sunshine and showers through the week. These showers bringing snow, also risk of ice and some sharp frost. Stay tuned and I'll be here with all the details.
Just gone 8 o'clock, I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, we just mentioned in the headlines there this idea from the Conservatives to deport all foreign criminals. If they've come from abroad, they're here in the UK and they commit a crime, deport them straight away. Let's talk to the Shadow Secretary of State for Business and Trade, Andrew Griffith, who joins us now. Good to see you this morning. Let's be honest, I think most of us probably assumed this already happened in some shape or form.
Yeah, and it absolutely should. At a time when our jails are full, where the government's releasing hardened criminals from jail, why keep foreign offenders who should be the responsibility of the countries that they've come from? Why doesn't it happen? Well, very much of that is the interlocking between the human rights system, the legacy that we inherited from Tony Blair and previous governments, and the courts. This whole domain of endless appeals has expanded over time, and that's what Kemi and our Shadow Home Secretary have been talking about.
I mean, refugee groups have described this plan as ludicrously unworkable. We'd have to leave the ECHR, wouldn't we?
Well, I'll let the refugee groups say what they want. I think ordinary British people think that it shouldn't be responsibility of the British taxpayer to be paying extremely expensive accommodation in British jails for people who've come here, abused our hospitality, committed offences, been convicted by our courts. They should be returned to the countries they came from, and we should use as a country all of the sanctions in our armoury, whether that's our overseas aid spending, whether it's sanctions on potential visas against those countries to ensure that that is in fact achieved. We desperately need that space in our jails. The British taxpayer can't afford this endlessly. And why should people come here and abuse our hospitality?
Yes, but there would be legal challenges, wouldn't there? As we see time and time again under the ECHR, people just evoke their right to a family life.
And we've said that as part of these reforms, as well as challenging the government to do more, which they can do right now under the existing legal system, but also we will reform the system of endless appeals and challenges under things like the ECHR. But it's not always just the ECHR, it's other forms of human rights and equalities legislation.
It does all beg the question, if this can be done under our current system, why didn't the last Conservative government do it?
No, that's quite wrong. I'm not saying it can be done under our current system. It needs proper reforms of this interlocking web of endless rights to appeal, human rights laws, and the criminal justice system.
Well, yes,
we can do more.
Forgive me, but the same point still applies. If you need to unlock this system, why didn't the last Conservative government do it?
Well, look, you're not wrong. There could have been more that would have been done in terms of things like visa sanction regimes against countries that were refusing to take back their offenders. But that's only part of it. And the policy that we've been talking about is going much, much further. Let's be clear, right now this is a problem that the government should be tackling with much greater vigour than they actually are. It's the same, refugee groups that often have refugee advocacy groups that have a revolving circle with Labour politicians. So they need to change their stance. They need to urgently do everything they can to rid our jails of foreign national offenders being convicted by criminal courts in this country and get them returned.
Can I ask you about this civil war as it's being described in Reform UK? Would you accept Rupert Lowe into the Conservative Party?
Well, the Conservative Party's got its own procedures as how you join, but I would welcome into the Conservative Party anyone who, like me, so desperately wants to get rid of this socialist government at the earliest opportunity. And is the Conservative Party, at the end of the day, I know the media love their soap opera, but at the end of the day, it's the Conservative Party that is providing daily opposition. This afternoon, we will be moving amendments to the devastating employment rights bill that's going to slow growth, we see rising unemployment, particularly hit young people, and even with their banter ban, restrict freedom of speech in venues like pubs, hospitality venues and sporting stadium. We are providing that opposition, and if anybody wishes to join us, I would urge them to do so. As I say, the actual decisions about membership are not for me, but I want to get rid of this socialist government.
Oh, it's a very carefully constructed answer there, Mr. Griffith. But in terms of, I mean, you are putting up opposition to some.
Well, not really. You're very welcome to. You're very welcome to join as well.
Oh, I wouldn't dream of joining a political party. It's more than my job's worth. But we've got to ask, in terms of what the
Ofcom would have something to say about it, wouldn't it? But,
in terms of what the government is doing and your opposition to that, you're doing it without any policies, any real policies at the moment. We know not to expect any for a couple of years.
Well, no, that's not true. And you've just been grilling me about a specific policy that we've advanced about reforming the system to deport foreign criminals. This afternoon, I'll be laying out very clearly and putting forward amendments so that the government have to remove the restrictions on freedom of speech from their employment rights bill. Hopefully not proceed with that bill at all. It should be shelved. It's going to be enormously damaging to growth. So opposition is a mixture between opposing what this government does. That's our official constitutional audition, if you like, to be worthy of the British people's choice at the next election, and crafting policies that speak to concerns people have. And again, you asked me right at the beginning of this piece about a specific policy. That policy is to remove foreign offenders from British jails.
The Tories have been vocal in their support for the farmers. I wanted to ask about the front page of the Daily Telegraph today, which is saying Rayner's land grab is hitting farmers again. They say that farmers are going to be forced to sell fields for less than their potential value to build new homes or hospitals. These are under the government's planning and infrastructure bill. What do you make of this? And do you think this is another attack on farmers?
Well, it's another attack on the countryside by a government that has no sympathy and understanding for our rural way of life. I mean, frankly, I hope it's not been briefed correctly, because there are countries around the world where the government, without any democratic oversight, comes in and nationalises people's land. We need more food security in this country. What we don't need are solar farms displacing growing of healthy food on a sustainable basis, and we certainly don't need Angela Rayner coming in and deciding to nationalise people's farmland.
OK, sadly, we've got to leave it there, but really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, is planning a visit to Moscow to meet with the Russian President, Vladimir Putin.
It's expected he'll head to the country later this week, following President Trump's desire to meet President Putin and form a new relationship with Russia.
Well, meanwhile, the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, last night suggested that Ukraine must concede land to Russia as part of an agreement to end the war.
That's as talks between US and Ukrainian officials continue in Saudi Arabia.
And it also comes as Elon Musk blames Ukraine for a cyber attack that took down his social media app, X.
And also, in the last few hours, one person's been confirmed dead as Ukraine launches a major drone attack on Moscow ahead of those peace talks.
Well, let's get more with our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who joins us in the studio now. Good to see you, Catherine. Lots to get through there. Should we start with the US and Marco Rubio heading over to meet Vladimir Putin? What are you to make of that?
Yes, well, first of all, that we're living in a different world now since Donald Trump came to the White House, and it's just under a month since he totally blindsided the West by picking up the phone to Putin and talking for an hour and a half. And I think that really set the tone for what has followed, which is a very different approach for Europe. Always say they want to put Ukraine in the strongest position for negotiations. America seems to have done the total opposite. But here we are. Today, the US meeting Ukraine in Saudi Arabia for talks. Likely that they'll sign that minerals deal, which didn't happen a week and a half ago when Zelensky was booted out of the Oval Office. Zelensky says he's putting forward realistic proposals are on the table. They're talking about an air and sea truce, prisoner exchange. America very clearly wants this war over, doesn't really want to be bothered with European wars, wants to be focusing on what it sees as the threat from China and sort of decoupling Russia from China, wants a stronger relationship with Russia. So what is Ukraine going to have to give? Territory that it's already lost, almost certainly. Quite likely it will have to accept it's not going to get back the territory that Russia is now in. But will it get those security guarantees? And worth saying, while all this is happening in the Middle East, in Paris, military bosses are meeting to talking about how Europe might step up. And the bottom line is, for us, we're already going to have to spend a lot more on defence. But if we can't count on America, and if we don't get those security guarantees, you know, the 2.5% that the government had announced and 3% may have to go up a lot more. That's going to have a very big knock-on effect on what we can spend money on here, and it's going to get potentially very difficult.
But you see, it all boils down to the argument, which makes sense, whether the security guarantees from the United States will come from the fact that they're making a lot of money out of a mineral mine.
Well, that's
they're not going to let that fall, are they?
That's what Donald Trump says, that, hey, you know, you don't need to worry because we'll have workers there, so that's enough. The feeling from Ukraine and Europe is that that is not enough. But our Prime Minister Starmer, when he went out and he had what was seen as a very successful meeting, a bit of a bromance with Trump, for all the warm words that he got, what he wanted to get and did not get were those security guarantees. There is still no sign of those at all.
Positive sounds coming out of Saudi, though, from Marco Rubio, who's talking about potentially sending weapons and intelligence back to Ukraine as soon as tomorrow.
Well, yeah, but I think what's astonishing is that those were taken away in the first place. Let's remember that Russia invaded Ukraine. Where is the pressure being brought to bear on Ukraine? They did that basically to turn the screws on Zelensky because Trump said he's not serious about peace. He thinks that, you know, he can rely on us. So, yes, it sounds like if Zelensky does enough to keep America happy today, that military aid and intelligence will be resumed.
Can we talk compulsory purchase orders? It's all part of this planning bill that, you know, that the Labour Party is putting forward. Just heard Andrew Griffiths of the Tories shouting back on all of that, saying we can't be taking more of this farmland. Admittedly, there's huge pressure on farmers at the moment. It's the last thing they want. But the Tories also say, as they have done for the last 14 years, we want to build more houses. Well, how do you balance that out?
Everybody says they want to build more houses, and the housing crisis gets worse and worse and worse. So, yeah, I mean, Labour have said 1.5 million homes. They've announced lots of infrastructure projects, and they're going to say they're going to, you know, bulldoze through the blockers. And if you don't like it, tough. Potentially bad news for farmers, as you say, who've already had dreadful news with the inheritance tax. So let's see. But Labour talking very, very tough. And at the end of the day, do we want these houses? Do we want these infrastructure projects? But wherever they're built, inevitably, they're going to upset people.
OK. Catherine, for now, thank you.
Now, at 15 minutes past 8, here's our poll of the day. Today, we're asking Donald Trump's tariffs, will they spark a global recession? You can get involved by scanning the QR code on your screen now, or you can head to gbnews.com/poll. As always, the final result will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show.
Yeah, because it's looking pretty grim, actually, in the States. The markets are well down, particularly the Nasdaq, which they're blaming on the trade wars. But also it's had an impact on other global markets as well, which is concerning.
It is concerning, but Donald Trump has said this is just a period of transition. Nothing to panic about.
Might be right.
Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/yours say.
16 minutes past 8 now. The Coast Guard has now called off the search for a missing crew member after a ship carrying toxic chemicals collided with a US military jet fuel tanker.
Well, fires have continued to burn overnight, which are being monitored by the Coast Guard.
It all happened on the North Sea off the coast of East Yorkshire, with emergency services managing to rescue 36 crew members.
Well, so far, investigators haven't ruled out foul play following multiple explosions yesterday morning.
Let's talk to our Yorkshire and Humber reporter, Anna Riley. What's the latest, Anna?
Good morning to you both. Well, we're here in Grimsby, the port of Grimsby. It's understood that all vessels are being held in port here as investigations continue into that collision at sea on Monday morning. It happened around 9:50 in the morning, and it involved a US oil tanker carrying aviation fuel, and also that was a US one, and a Portuguese cargo ship that's carrying highly toxic chemicals. They collided. It's believed that the US vessel was at anchor when it was hit by the cargo ship at around 16 knots. That's a rate of around 20 miles an hour, and investigations are continuing as to how this happened. Foul play has not been ruled out. As you mentioned, the Coast Guard has said that one crew member is still unaccounted for from the Portuguese-flagged Solong ship, and that the search and rescue effort has been called off. We know that 36 people have been rescued. One of them was taken to hospital. Efforts to assess any environmental damage are still ongoing, as we know that some of the jet fuel from the tanker leaked into the sea off the Humber estuary. The maritime firm Crawley manages the Stena Immaculate. It said there's been multiple explosions on board, and that the tank was carrying 220,000 barrels of jet fluid in 16 segregated tanks. So as we have more updates, we will bring them to you.
OK, Anna Riley, thank you very much.
Let's have a look at the weather for you now with Anna.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through the week, we can expect sunshine and also some showers. These showers bringing in some snow and a risk of ice, and it is going to be feeling much chillier than it has done of late. A fairly bright start across Northern Ireland, parts of England and Wales, but a chance we could see some patchy frost. Staying largely dry, though we have got plenty of showers starting to feed through from the northeast. Likely these will bring some sleet and snow, particularly across Scotland. Perhaps even northeastern parts of England could see a sprinkling of snow, and it is going to be feeling chilly, particularly in those brisk northeasterly winds. Highs of only around 10 degrees Celsius, but feeling much chillier than it has done over the last few days. So to end the day across Scotland, there's going to be plenty of cloud around, particularly across northeastern parts. Still, a chance these showers could bring in a sprinkling of sleet and snow, particularly across high ground. Similar across Northern Ireland, cloudy with plenty of showers feeding through. Still plenty of showers still across North Sea coasts as well. And throughout inland areas across England and Wales, more dry weather, but still can't rule out a few showers, particularly across Wales, once again bringing some snow towards hills. Now, through the course of the night, we'll see more and more showers feed their way in from the northeast, but where we see clearer skies, temperatures dipping away and likely to once again see quite a patchy frost by the morning, but still quite a brisk northeasterly flow, stopping a lot of frost formation, but many towns and cities still getting into the low single figures, so a chilly start as we head into Wednesday. Some patchy frost, may even see some icy stretches, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning, and still plenty of snow showers feeding in, mainly across Scotland, northeastern parts of England. Once again, any snow mainly to higher ground, but we could see some flurries to lower levels too. But through the course of the day, as we see more sunshine, that snow likely to build away and still feeling very cold, particularly in those brisk winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, we want to make your spring spectacular, don't we?
Well, if you want one.
We do. It's our latest Great British giveaway. Your chance to win £17,777 exactly in tax-free cash. But not only that.
Well, you don't know
No. You can get 2 designer watches and a designer bag as well. Do you want to look and feel the part this spring?
Well, why not?
Why not? Well, here are all of the details that you need.
You could have £17,777 in tax-free cash to play with this spring. Cash to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you not one, but two sought-after designer watches and the latest Mulberry handbag. How would winning that sound?
Oh my God, that's brilliant news.
For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, still to come, a Parisian theatre has been overrun by migrants. We're going to be on the scene for you in just a moment to get the latest.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
I watched the video yesterday with Meghan Markle announcing this relaunch. What did you make of the video?
It's constantly this rebranding thing that's going on, which is quite interesting. We've had different kind of, way back to Sussex Royal at the very beginning. Here we've now got this new lifestyle series that's coming out. Obviously, she's got this new brand that's going to go alongside it. It's very difficult because royals, as we've said many, many times before, this is not something royals typically kind of do. And obviously these are no longer, if you like, working members of the royal family, but still, Prince Harry, I keep saying, is a senior member of the royal family. So it's quite a kind of uncharted territory that they're going into. And as I said, this is a bit of a disaster because everything they seem to kind of do when it comes to branding, it just doesn't seem to work.
They seem to really be struggling to find their purpose in the US. Do you think that's fair? I mean, Prince Harry, of course, has got the Invictus Games, which is just the most wonderful thing that he has set up. But it appears that they're not obviously part of the royal family anymore in terms of working royals. They're not senior working royals, but not able to make it in the business world yet either.
You're right, Ellie. I think the Invictus Games is definitely the kind of saving grace. That's the thing that everybody kind of admires and respects them for. But then it's when they keep going back into this kind of celebrity branded lifestyle. I don't think anyone's really that hugely interested. As you said, in the States, you kind of hear people are for them, people are against them. I think most people would rather that they went kind of doing this. I think we've said this so many times before that, as members of the royal family, they should continue down that line and going into this kind of business world. It just, I think I'm right in saying historically with royals and kind of business, it doesn't really work.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Simon Evans, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 8:26. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie.
Now, a historic theatre in Paris that's been occupied by migrants for almost 4 months is putting serious financial strain on neighbouring businesses.
Well, the theatre became a shelter for 450 migrants who were previously living rough in the streets of the French capital.
Well, despite growing concerns, police have been instructed not to carry out any forced evictions.
Well, we're joined now by GB News reporter Doogie Beattie, who's live for us in Paris. Morning to you, Doogie.
Good morning. Welcome to Paris, the city of love and culture, or it's meant to be. I mean, you can have a look around us here. This is one of the parks next to the theatre. It is absolutely beautiful. People going to work on their ways. And right out round this square is lots of little coffee shops and patisseries, specially made for people coming out of the theatre and enjoying themselves and then going into these businesses at nights. They are complaining, these businesses are now starting to complain, that the theatre being closed down, which you can see behind us here, has actually affecting their business and starting to bankrupt them. But really what happened here was 3 to 4 months ago, a young group decided to bring a lot of immigrants into the theatre, and they told them that they could stay there. Now these groups are 16 and 17 years of age that brought them there and said that they could stay there. So they effectively squatted there for a few months. And the police have decided that they're not going to move them because lots of these migrants are claiming that they are under the age of 18, minors, and therefore must be housed somewhere else. So this group has actually really played the police at their own game, because what they're saying is if they're minors, they can't be moved unless you house them somewhere else. So they have quite literally moved into council buildings, which is this beautiful theatre behind us, that puts on shows, that puts on exhibitions, etc. And by doing so, they have cut the income of that theatre, and the police here are basically giving them squatters' rights. And the issue is being handed on from council to police to protesters, and nobody seems to have an answer for it. But meanwhile, the businesses in this area are now starting to suffer from lack of footfall. And there must be an option to this. There must be a way out. We had a quick chat with one of the group this morning. They didn't want to appear on camera for us, but they are very young, 16, 17 years of age. And really the point is they don't seem to understand commerce and how it works, that these businesses pay commercial rates that keeps the city going.
OK, Dougie Beattie there for us in Paris. Thank you very much.
Now, don't go anywhere, because Lord Sir Gentleman of the Realm, Harry Redknapp. I mean, who doesn't love Harry Redknapp?
Who doesn't love Harry?
Anyway, he's going to be here in just a moment, but not talking football. I'll tell you more in a tick.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M8 in Renfrewshire is partly blocked eastbound where someone's broken down at junction 27, the Paisley and Renfrew turn causing queues. The M6 in Lancashire is closed northbound from junction 31 at Samlesbury to 32. The M55 Broughton interchange for repairs after an accident yesterday afternoon. There are queues from junction 28 at Leyland, back along the M62 from junction 8 at Chorley, and on the A6 through Preston as you divert. In Cheshire, the A534 is closed each way between Barnhill and Clutton after an accident, with the A41 also closed there. On the M40 in Buckinghamshire, the outside lane's closed southbound after an accident between junctions 4 and 3 near High Wycombe, causing delays. And on the M4 in London, the inside lane is closed eastbound where a lorry's broken down just before junction 3 at Heston, with queues from the M25. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's time to go through all the latest sports news. Paul Coit is here with us. There's a big match tonight, Coity.
There's a huge match tonight. Liverpool playing PSG, Paris Saint-Germain.
Saint-Germain.
They played the last game. It's a two-legged affair, of course, the last 16 of the Champions League. And Liverpool, if we remember, just going back a week, it was a smash and grab. It was all PSG. It was just all PSG, and Liverpool managed to score late, which was great, which means they go into the second leg 1-up. And I just think, even though it's at Anfield, and even though the crowd's going to be behind them, and you're going to think that Liverpool should be fine, it could be very tricky. It could be a very tricky game, but it's going to be a terrific game, I'm sure about that. So Paris Saint-Germain at Anfield, playing Liverpool. And, of course, Liverpool have got, there's so many fish to fry they have at the moment. So they've got the Carabao Cup final on Sunday. The Premier League is looking very much like theirs. They want to win as much as they possibly can. So it might be nice to hear from... Should we hear from Arna Slot?
Why not?
Let's hear...
Oh, we haven't got it. No, we can't.
We can't hear from Arna.
No, but I'll tell you what we can. I'll tell you what we can do is talk about Ruben Amorim, who's had a real piece of support, as Jim Ratcliffe says. Well, he's not perfect.
Yeah, he said, well, Ruben Amorim, if you look at all the managers since Sir Alex Ferguson, and there's been quite a few, and look at their record, Ruben Amorim, unfortunately, is the worst at the moment. So Jim Ratcliffe has said he's doing a great job. He's doing a great job. But if he's the manager, he is going to say that. There was an interview with Jim Ratcliffe talking all about the mistakes that they've made at Manchester United, and that basically he's not making any apology for the cuts. But anyway, he's been talking a lot. Talking about football managers.
Yes.
One of the greatest and probably my favourite that I've ever known over the years, and I'm not just saying that.
You're talking about Lord Sir Harry, aren't you?
I am talking about him because it's a huge day. The Cheltenham Festival gets underway today. The Cheltenham Roar just after lunchtime, and Harry Redknapp, a winning owner from last year, will be going again. Of course, he's going to be there. And I believe we have Harry with us right now. Morning, Harry.
Morning, Paul. How are you?
I'm really well. It's great to see you. Where did it rate last year when it comes to all the sporting achievements, everything you've done as a player, manager, when you become an owner and you have a winner at Cheltenham, where does that rate?
Well, it was a fantastic day for me, Paul. Shake 'em up, Harry, who I named because a guy used to keep shouting at me for 90 minutes, shake 'em up, Harry, when I managed West Ham. So when I bought a horse, I thought I'm going to call him Shake 'em Up Harry, and to actually have him win at the festival coming up that hill was fantastic in front. It was a great day. No, I'll never forget it for sure.
What's the difference between being an owner then and just having a few quid on a horse that's coming up the back straight? It must have felt incredible the moment it was coming up the hill there.
It did, yeah. It was a great feeling. And then the second day, that was the day after, that was the Thursday. On the Friday, I had Jukebox Man who jumped the last 5 lengths in front and got beat a short head in a photo. So I nearly had 2 winners, very, very near. But I'll go there with 2 horses this year. Shake 'em up, Harry goes back. He's had a hard year. I don't think he's quite what he was last year. So just hope he gets around safe and sound when he runs on Thursday. And I've got a horse called the Yellow Car that with Graham McPherson is the trainer. That runs Friday. So hopefully he runs well as well. So I think it'll be a fun week, great week. But I'm not going there really expecting to have a win. I'm hopeful, but not confident.
Well, I've been a Spurs fan all my life, and that's always how I feel, Harry. So I know exactly what it's all about. Tell me about Yellow Car then. So is this a new horse?
It is, yeah. I mean, I got a phone call from Graham McPherson, who's a trainer, and he rang up and said, look, I've got a nice horse called Yellow Car. Would you be interested in it? And I thought, well, not really. Not really for me. You know, I've got enough horses at the moment. And then there was a knock at the door, and the young lady comes round and does a little bit of work for us, you know. She was at the door, and she showed Harry, don't look at in the drive. She had this little yellow car. She said, give me a yellow car. Took my car in for a service. I thought, this is an omen, so I thought I'd better buy it.
Did Graham slip her a few quid beforehand? Is this how it works?
He probably planted the yellow car there, yeah.
Yeah, we'll put that. So how good is Yellow Car? Not her car, I mean the horse.
Yeah, we're hopeful. He won last time out at Doncaster. And, yeah, we go there hopeful, you know, with a chance, and a sporting chance, I suppose, Paul. That's about it.
But the thing is, though, you've had horse racing it's almost been in the blood, though, hasn't it? Even growing up in the East End, goes back since you were a kid.
Yeah, always loved it. And Cheltenham is the big week, you know, the atmosphere. I'm going Thursday, Friday, so I'll be there for 2 days. Looking forward to it.
Harry, what's more nerve-wracking, owning racehorses or managing football?
Oh, I don't know. I'll get very nervous watching the horses jumping, and I worry so much about the horse. You know, I'm a big animal lover as well, obviously. So every time they run and jump, you're holding your breath. It's it's quite nerve-wracking, really. You just want them to come back safe and sound. That's the most important thing for me.
Sure. The thing is, about being an animal lover, and we are as well, but how much time do you spend... Does the horse... I know it might sound like a crazy question, but does the horse know you? Do you go and see the horse? Do you spend much time at the stables?
I go when I can, yeah. Paul, you know, have a ride up and see the horses whenever possible. Take them a few... They like polo mints and that. I take them a few mints or whatever, and... I doubt if they know me, to be truthful. You know, I think I just keep feeding them, but paying the bills. But
listen, the horses would be the only ones that don't know you, Harry, because everybody else does.
Yeah, well, you do get attached to them, and it is a lovely feeling to have a runner at Cheltenham. Is a dream, you know, and to have a winner last year, as I say, was really special. So, yeah, I love the atmosphere. The atmosphere will be amazing today when that first race starts. The roar that goes up is fantastic.
Well, this is it. We did mention we mentioned the roar, didn't we? That's so famous with Cheltenham, going back, hundreds of years. What is it then? Does everybody just shout, and you just get the feeling the moment the tape goes up?
Yeah, when that tape goes up, that roar goes up, and we're off for Cheltenham. You know, you've got 4 days ahead of you. That's going to be. I mean, you see some great sights there, Paul. Believe you me, people do go there and let their hair down and enjoy it. And so, yeah, it's fun. It's fun. The Irish come over, take over. They have winner after winner.
Absolutely.
You know, Mullins, Gordon Elliott, Gavin Cromwell, you know, Henry de Bromhead. They bring fantastic horses over. But the British trainers, hopefully we can get a few on the board as well this year.
Well, that's the Pressbury Cup, isn't it? It's almost between Ireland and Britain. And always Ireland seem to come through in that. Harry, I've got to ask you though. Listen, is there any tips that anything you like today?
Yeah, I quite fancy Gordon Elliott's horse in the first, Romeo Coolio.
Right.
It'd be about 7-1. I think it's a big each way bet, a good each way bet. I'd bet it each way. It's got the Mullins horse to beat, but I think it looks a good each way bet. I mean, the big race, Constitution Hill and Better Days Ahead.
Yep.
Should be in a brighter days ahead. Should be an amazing race. I don't know. It's going to be, that will be a special champion hurdle. That will be an amazing race to watch. So I'm hopeful Constitution Hill is back to his best, and if he is, he'll take all the beating.
Second time in a row if he wins today. Harry, listen, always good to speak to you. Appreciate your time.
Have a lovely day, guys.
We're all behind you for Thursday. Very best of luck.
Good to see you, Harry.
Shake him up, Harry. There you go. Thanks, Harry.
I might put a £5 on Yellow Car.
Yeah, Yellow Car.
Yeah.
Quite fancy it. I like
See the omen. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to walk out of here today and you'll see a Yellow Car in front of you and you'll think...
Yeah, might squeeze a £5. I don't normally bet, but I might squeeze a £5 on that.
OK. Well,
Isn't he lovely?
He always is.
Lovely.
I love talking to him.
Family's lovely.
Absolutely.
And I like the idea of him feeding the horse polo mints. Didn't you
they
like
love
that?
a polo mint.
That was nice.
Champion Day today, Style Wednesday tomorrow.
Ladies'
Formerly Ladies' Day. St Patrick's Thursday, that's Harry's Day. Gold Cup Day will be on Friday, so Cheltenham gets underway lunchtime.
Right.
Can't wait.
Lovely, Paul, thank you.
Thanks, Coity.
Right, we're going to have the papers in a minute, but first, let's take you through the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Storm Yana brings heavy rain and also risk of thunderstorms to western and central parts of the Mediterranean, but further east it's mostly settled. Outbreaks of rain just starting to clip into parts of Tenerife, also southern parts of Portugal and Spain, but the bulk of the heaviest rain across central parts of the Mediterranean, where we're still seeing a risk of thunderstorms as we head through into Wednesday. Largely settled across Greece though, and remaining settled for the rest of the week, and this is where we'll see the best of the temperatures, but elsewhere still a risk of showers and temperatures in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dube and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Our hope is that this will have impact to be able to drive connections for those who have been suffering from hearing loss and allow them to experience those special moments.
Okay, so how does the hearing aid feature actually work?
It's really simple, and that is what's so beautiful about the feature. We designed it so it could be used across all age groups, all tech savviness, if you will. You simply take a hearing test right on your iPhone using the AirPods Pro 2. It creates a personalized hearing profile, which then automatically pre-programs the AirPods Pro 2 to work as a hearing assistive device. And so just with a touch of a button, you'll now be able to augment the frequencies where you may need some assistance. And what's beautiful about the hearing test is it's a clinically validated audiogram. So we compared it to what is considered gold standard in the hearing world. And the hearing aid the hearing aid feature basically simply turns on and allows you to use it not just when you're talking with one another, like with another individual, but whether you're using it across phone calls, your media, your entertainment. So it's a really simple experience.
And have you noticed, because this has been rolled out around the world before it's come here to Britain, but have you seen a spike in people realising that they actually have hearing loss as a result of taking the test with this feature?
I can anecdotally share with you that even just in my circle and talking to people sometimes have picked up things that they didn't expect and noticed that they had some hearing issues. What's probably been so impactful is the letters we get from customers. One of the ones that we just got last week was a grandmother who was able to hear her soft-spoken grandchild for the first time by using this. And I think that is what's so special about it. We've already heard from customers around the world who have been able to use it over the past few months, how it's made an impact in their life.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
8:45. Let's go. Anna Firth's just chatting away. She don't care. She's here to take us through the papers along with Jonathan Ashworth. Morning, you two. Anna, we better kick off with you since you're mid-conversation anyway. Looking at Elon Musk and a cyber attack.
Yeah, I mean, this is extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, you know, this obviously must have been, you know, a very serious thing for him. But I mean, I'm afraid X is not the centre of my universe, and my day actually went on yesterday without worrying too much about Elon Musk.
No, it'd gone down, to be fair.
And the other interesting thing is that he himself put out 13 tweets yesterday. So it couldn't have gone down for very long, could it? But I mean, he is now alleging that apparently this cyber attack may have originated in Ukraine. Now, I mean, there's no proof of that, and indeed another hacking group called Dark Storm have actually said it was them. So I don't know if that is true or not. But what I do know is that when you are so influential and you are working with the most powerful government in the Western world, and we are trying to get peace in Ukraine with Russia, I don't think comments like this from Elon Musk are particularly helpful, edifying or mature.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is, I mean, I didn't notice that Twitter, X, whatever you call it these days, had gone down, but I suppose I don't really use it so much anymore that I'm no longer an MP, although I do still post things. But yeah, he's claiming it's Ukraine, but as you say, there's this other group, a Dark Storm team, or a kind of anti-Israel, sort of pro-Palestine group, who apparently work with Russia often to attack sort of Western infrastructure. Yeah. So again, it just shows you how all this sort of geopolitics is becoming increasingly murky, and so many assumptions have been upended, haven't they, by some of these now very powerful figures in the White House taking a view on things, or in the US taking a view on things which a year ago would have been completely
there used to be an expression, didn't there, stay in your lane. And I think Elon Musk needs to bear that in mind.
Jonathan, should we take a look at The Sun? And this is the BBC's £5 million bill for scandals.
My word, yes. So look, I mean, the BBC. I mean, it feels like every week there's another scandal relating to a big, well-known celebrity. I mean, the BBC have had a lot of them. So have ITV, in fairness, as well in recent times. I mean. Often when there is scandals, obviously there has to be, you know, compensation for victims and so on. But of course, you know, we've had the stories recently of a very, very prominent ex-BBC presenter refusing to pay back the wages that he received, or the money he received, when he was under investigation and suspended. And I think people have looked upon that with a very, you know, and it does look very distasteful, doesn't it?
I think it's absolutely appalling that our licence fee has been going to paying wages to Hugh Edwards. I mean, at the you know, has he got no shame? You know,
he hasn't got enough money to pay it back. I always put myself in the shoes. I mean, not in his shoes, because I mean. Something like that, but you know, when you get these bankers and they say, oh, you know, you need to pay back money from bonuses and all the rest of it. I always think, if I was them, what would I do? Would I give money back? No, not in a million years. If you've been given the money and you're not under a legal obligation to give it back, why would you give it back?
I mean, contractually, I bet there's nothing that can be done about it, because you know, if you signed a contract and there was agreements in your contract.
I mean, I'd be more worried about the fact, as you said, that it's licence fee payers' money. Should we scrap the licence fee, Jonathan?
Yeah, but then what is the alternative?
Adverts. That's what everybody else does.
Or a streaming service. Pay like you would for Netflix.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that the finances of that add up for the BBC, because the BBC just isn't just the television, is it? It's radio, it's the online coverage, it's the local radio. I mean, is a sort of streaming subscription service going to cover all that?
Well, I'm afraid that I mean, I've got 3 children, and they don't watch the BBC any longer. They subscribe or watch streaming services, and I think that the BBC, sadly, is no longer, you know, the treasure and the national jewel that it used to be. I'm not sure it's giving us value for money any longer, particularly when you hear about these £5 million bill for scandals, and I think we should be looking at a subscription model.
Now, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/yours. I sort of think the licence fee system is done and dusted, to be fair. What's this panther on the prowl, Anna?
Well, this is an extraordinary story, isn't it? This is apparently sightings of a panther on a farm in Worcestershire, and apparently it's been seen drinking from an animal trough, but not yet caught on camera. Not yet caught on. But the interesting thing about this is that there are apparently now thoughts that there could be large cats in the country, lynxes in particular seem to escape from zoos. Dartford Zoo, in particular, has lost 2 lynxes. So, I mean, obviously a lynx and a panther are very different things, but I do hope they catch it, because I wouldn't want to meet a panther, particularly not when I'm out with my lovely little dog Lottie.
Well, Lottie would make a nice snack.
Oh, no, don't say that.
That's true. I don't know. I never know what to make of these things, Jonathan, because we have big cats on the loose stories all the time.
I know. I'm with you, and although, you know, like, you know, when I'm out walking my cockapoo Nellie, big cuddly Nellie, I wouldn't want a panther attacking her. But you're right, these stories do come along every so often, and there always seems to be some evidence, but no one ever actually catches these big cats, as far as I'm aware. I'm happy to be corrected, but I mean, these stories have been for years and years and years, but does anyone ever catch these panthers and lynxes and so on? But we always get these sorts of these sightings, don't we?
We do.
Well, be careful if you're out and about in Worcestershire today. Jonathan, children who eat fish are nicer to their chums.
Well,
says the Daily Telegraph.
Apparently, yes, there's a new study. I never know how they do these studies, by the way, but apparently there is a study which suggests that children are nicer if they eat fish. I always remember going to the chippy as a kid with my dad, and there was like a poster up about how fish is good for your brain.
Well, it is.
Yeah, so like...
Especially when it's battered and deep fried.
Exactly. So, look, I love fish and chips, so I'm all in favour of kids eating more fish and chips.
I love fish. It's one of my favourite foods.
Well, I mean, I absolutely going to weigh in here, because obviously it's a great source of vitamins, particularly all the B vitamins that we need, particularly at this time of year. But of course, if you've got to get down to Leon Sea, to Old Leigh Port, and try our internationally acclaimed cockles. That's the place to go for the best shellfish in the country.
I get re-elected next time round.
I like to stick up for my local area, and now we've got a clam fishery coming online.
Have you?
We have first new fishery in the Thames Estuary for years and years, and
now,
it's
I will say it's the best seafood in Leon Sea. Is it called the Boatyard?
The Boatyard, yes.
And the Peter boat down on Leon Sea. It's my neck of the woods as well, but it is the best fish.
Well, if Osborne's, of course, is there as well. We are very, very well known. I think if GB News wanted to do a day away, the Boatyard would love to host you.
Oh, wow. That's an invitation.
Well,
yes,
the vegetarian might not be so keen.
I feel like non-fish eater is not...
Given you've done this, I feel like for anyone in Leicester, if you want a fish and chips, go to Grimsby's on Welford Road. You'll get the best fish and chips in Leicester.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, but not as many vitamins, Jonathan, in fish and chips.
Oh, we don't care. You can't beat poker chips. Thank you both. Been good to see you. Here's the weather.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through the week, we can expect sunshine and also some showers. These showers bringing in some snow and a risk of ice, and it is going to be feeling much chillier than it has done of late. A fairly bright start across Northern Ireland, parts of England and Wales, but a chance we could see some patchy frost. Staying largely dry, though we have got plenty of showers starting to feed through from the northeast. Likely these will bring some sleet and snow, particularly across Scotland, perhaps even northeastern parts of England could see a sprinkling of snow, and it is going to be feeling chilly, particularly in those brisk northeasterly winds. Highs of only around 10 degrees Celsius, but feeling much chillier than it has done over the last few days. So to end the day across Scotland, there's going to be plenty of cloud around, particularly across northeastern parts. Still, a chance these showers could bring in a sprinkling of sleet and snow, particularly across high ground. Similar across Northern Ireland, cloudy with plenty of showers feeding through. Still plenty of showers still across North Sea coasts as well. And throughout inland areas across England and Wales, more dry weather, but still can't rule out a few showers, particularly across Wales, once again bringing some snow towards hills. Now, through the course of the night, we'll see more and more showers feed their way in from the northeast, but where we see clearer skies, temperatures dipping away and likely to once again see quite a patchy frost by the morning, but still quite a brisk northeasterly flow, stopping a lot of frost formation, but many towns and cities still getting into the low single figures, so a chilly start as we head into Wednesday. Some patchy frost, may even see some icy stretches, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning, and still plenty of snow showers feeding in, mainly across Scotland, northeastern parts of England. Once again, any snow mainly to higher ground, but we could see some flurries to lower levels too. But through the course of the day, as we see more sunshine, that snow likely to build away and still feeling very cold, particularly in those brisk winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M8 in Renfrewshire is partly blocked eastbound by a breakdown at junction 27. The Paisley and Renfrew turn causing queues. Buses replaced trains between Barrhead and Kilmarnock because of a signalling problem. The M6 in Lancashire is closed northbound from junction 31 at Samlesbury to 32 for the M55 for repairs after an accident yesterday. There are queues from junction 28 at Leyland, on the M61 from junction 8 at Chorley, and routes through Preston as you divert. On the M1 in Derbyshire, there's a lane closed northbound where someone's broken down between junctions 28 and 29 near Mansfield, causing delays. On the M25 in Essex, 2 lanes are closed anti-clockwise just before junction 29 for the A127 after an accident, with queues from junction 31 at West Thurrock. And on the M4 in London, the inside lane is closed eastbound just before junction 3 at Heston, where a lorry's broken down, with queues from junction 4 at Heathrow. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
We want to spruce up your spring with an incredible £17,777 in tax-free cash that you can spend however you like. But that's not all, as you'll also receive not one, but 2 brand new designer watches and a fabulous Mulberry handbag. For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Moscow is under attack.
At least 2 people are dead as the Russian capital is hit by a deadly drone attack launched by Ukraine in what's being described as the largest ever bombardment of the city.
This comes as Donald Trump prepares to send an envoy to meet Vladimir Putin in Russia.
And today, a US meeting Ukraine in Saudi Arabia, where hopes are that progress can be made after that disastrous falling out in the Oval Office just over a week ago.
A disaster at sea. Foul play is not ruled out after an oil tanker and a container ship collide 10 miles off Grimsby.
Calls to clamp down on foreign criminals. The Conservatives put pressure on the government to deport offenders from abroad.
The Prime Minister calls out the number of people out of work as indefensible and unfair. We're asking, is it time to end Benefits Britain?
A quarter of police are ready to resign as a sharp decline in morale threatens staff retention.
Kicking up a stink as Birmingham bin workers begin walkouts over pay.
Fury in France. 450 migrant squatters take over a theatre in Paris, with neighbours facing financial ruin.
Businesses here are under pressure because the theatre that supplies football to them has been occupied by protesters.
We can expect sunshine and showers through the week. These showers bringing snow, also risk of ice and some sharp frost. Stay tuned and I'll be here with all the details.
Just got 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello and this is GB News Breakfast. Lots of you getting in touch this morning. Jazzy says, how can youngsters buy houses if they're not working on a low wage? Get a grip. What we need is low-rent council houses and not to sell them.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm a bit torn on that because my grandparents bought their council house.
Yeah.
And it did get a lot of people on the ladder, but it's there for you. You've got to replace them.
Yeah, you
That's
need to
the
replace
thing.
that council housing. Exactly.
Interestingly, Jan, is it controversial? If a person is genuinely poor and unable to work, this is all to do with the government saying they're going to come back on some benefits. If people are genuinely poor, they shouldn't be able to afford tattoos, nail extensions, the latest mobile phones or TV packages. When we were hard up, when the children were small, I did an evening cleaning job to help us make ends meet. Times have changed, though, Jan. People don't view the world in the same way, do they? I mean, I sort of tend to agree with you, to be fair, but I mean, it's... I know what it is.
Yeah, Jerry says reform of the benefit system is a needed thing and not by taking money from the most vulnerable. There are not a lot of jobs around, even in information technology, the area that you think there would be jobs right now. Retail workers are losing their jobs up and down the country. The rhetoric is get these people into work, but there are so few jobs. Says Jerry.
But Alan says the benefit system was originally there to support you when you were sick. It's now become a lifestyle. Some people don't want to work. I mean, the emphasis on the some, but there are definitely people, we all come across people who for generations in a family have never worked. I always think, again, I've got some family members on benefits who are very severely disabled, and it's been an absolute lifeline for them. But it's not that much money. So you need the people who genuinely need our help should get it.
Yes.
It's those people who perhaps should be given a bit of a kick to go and get or try and get a job. But as Jerry says, maybe the jobs aren't available. It's hugely difficult.
It is, yeah. Well, let us know what you think on that one. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Now, we're starting with some breaking news, and we're now hearing that at least 2 people have died after a Ukrainian drone hit Moscow in what's been described as the largest bombardment of the city.
Well, the Ukrainian authorities are yet to comment, but this all comes as President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, is planning a visit to Moscow to meet with the Russian President, Vladimir Putin.
Well, let's get more from our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who's here in the studio. It just goes to highlight, Catherine, I guess, how delicate these negotiations are, because while they're trying to get something done, whether you agree with the principles or not, the action, the war is continuing.
Yes, indeed. And yes, these strikes into Russia last week, we saw further loss of life in Ukraine, of course. And so today we've got a meeting in Saudi Arabia, the United States meeting with Ukraine. Zelensky is not directly, he's there, but he's not directly in those talks. His chief of staff and foreign and defence ministers are with Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, and others. The US is suggesting that if things go well, they will lift their ban on weapons to Ukraine and intelligence sharing. So that's what Ukraine will be hoping for. They may well sign this minerals deal that we've been hearing about for a long time, but what Ukraine wants is security guarantees. And also, Ukraine doesn't want to give up all the territory that Russia has currently taken. And it sounds very much like that's where this is going.
OK, Catherine, back to you in a minute. But we just want to head to Westminster and talk to the Minister of State for Housing and Planning, Matthew Pennycook. Good morning to you, Minister. Nice to see you this morning.
Morning.
Is it across a lot of the papers this morning, this idea of a land grab for farmers? I know it's all changing the planning regulations and rules around compulsory purchase orders and all the rest of it. A lot of people, it would seem, whereas some people would welcome this in order to build more houses, a lot of people are upset by what's going on.
Well, we are introducing a landmark planning and infrastructure bill into the House of Commons today. It will be transformative in terms of what it means for how we build things in this country. And the purpose of the bill is to speed up and streamline the delivery of new homes and infrastructure. And part of that is, through compulsory purchase powers, unlocking land more effectively. It won't be for ministers to decide what land is unlocked. It will be for local authorities in any particular area to use these powers where they think it's appropriate. But we do want to make it easier for them to do so. We want to make the process more efficient. We want to reduce administration costs so that we can get greater use of these powers and enable more land to be unlocked, more land to be assembled effectively. But I see the real potential for these powers primarily in urban areas on previously developed brownfield land where regeneration projects can come forward often really effectively once that land assembly piece, often supported by compulsory purchase powers, is taken through.
But is this another attack on British farmers? We've already had inheritance tax changes. Now we're talking about some farmers being forced to sell their fields for less than their potential value. I mean, at this time of global tension, surely British farmland and our own food security is more important now than ever.
No, it's not an attack on rural England. And it's not forcing farmers to give up their land for more than a reasonable rate. What we are doing through these reforms is ensuring in certain circumstances where a local council thinks it's appropriate to use compulsory purchase powers, that a fair market value is paid for the land rather than the inflated costs of permissions with hope value built in. But we're unashamed about the fact that we do want to see greater use of these powers. As I said, to build the homes we need, to bring forward the critical infrastructure we need, we do need to unlock more land, to assemble land more efficiently. But as I say, I think the real potential for these powers is in urban areas on previously developed brownfield land and regeneration projects in particular.
Well, yeah, I mean, regeneration would be seen generally as a positive thing rather than taking greenfields. Can I just ask you, I know it's a bit off the cuff, but can I ask you about the farmers in particular, farmers and small businesses that'll be hit by this inheritance tax situation? A lot of the frustration is not just around the policy which they don't agree with. It's the fact that when they try and fight this, when they try and have proper conversations about this, it feels like the government's putting their head in the sand and just not wanting to listen. Do you need to be a bit more welcoming in hearing the views of people affected by your policies?
We do hear the views, and we've got a significant number of Labour MPs now who represent rural areas. They represent the views of their constituents, and ministers have engaged. But we think that particular measure that you note there is a fair and appropriate response. I won't rehash all the debates about the number of farms affected. We think that is a right and necessary change. And when it comes to the use of prime agricultural land in general and food security, we're providing support to farmers. We're consulting on a land use framework that will ensure that we use the right land in the right way. But the changes we're introducing through the bill today around compulsory purchase, around a more certain and streamlined consenting process for nationally significant infrastructure projects, absolutely vital to build the new homes we need and critical infrastructure. I mean, your viewers may not know this, but we have not built a reservoir in this country for nearly 30 years. We have got to make the process for bringing forward this critical national infrastructure as well as the homes we need to meet our plan for change milestone of 1.5 million new homes. We've got to make that process far more streamlined, far faster.
OK, can I ask you about changes to the welfare system which are due to be set out, all aiming to cut the benefits bill in Britain? It's said in the papers today up to 80 Labour MPs set to oppose the plans. That's a fifth of all Labour MPs. They're not comfortable with making poorer people poorer. They're calling it a rerun of austerity. You've got a big rebellion on your hands with this one, haven't you?
Well, we've not set out any plans, and I'm not in a position to do so today. As I said, I'm here to introduce the planning and infrastructure bill. But I think on the principle of whether the system needs reform, I don't think that is in dispute. We have inherited a broken welfare system. It is failing young people, it is failing employers, it is failing taxpayers, and most importantly, it's failing people with health conditions and disabilities who want work but aren't receiving the appropriate support that they need to start, to sustain, to succeed in jobs. And that's the change we've got to make, and we've been very clear about the principles that will apply when we take forward changes. Those who need support will get support. We've got to restore trust and confidence in the system. We've got to overhaul, for example, the flawed assessment process. And as I said, we've got to ensure that where people want to work and can work with health conditions, that they're provided with the necessary support to do so. They are the principles that will underpin any reform package.
I know we're almost out of time, but can I just pop this one to you? The Conservatives saying we need to do more to make sure we deport foreign criminals from this country, really before they start serving their sentence, so that we're not even paying for their jail spaces over here. Can that be done? Should that be done?
I'd say two very simple things. Firstly, we have got to deal with our dire inheritance from the previous Conservative government when it comes to an asylum and immigration system which is not working. We've got to restore order to that system. We've got to reduce net migration. And I'd say to your viewers, our record speaks for itself. We have deported over 19,000 people in our first 8 months in office, people with no right to be here. That record far surpasses that of the previous government. So they're playing politics as you'd expect, but talking cheap, our record speaks for itself.
OK. Minister, good to see you. Thank you.
Well, let's speak now to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, who joins us in the studio. Good to see you this morning, Catherine. We didn't have time to ask Mr Pennycook about this next question, but the US is talking to Russia this week, aren't they? They're heading to Russia to deal with Vladimir Putin directly. Does that mean that we should be following suit?
We really are very minor players in this. I mean, it was very clear from the moment that Trump picked up the phone to Putin and they talked for an hour and a half, 3.5 weeks ago. At that point, America was basically saying, this has got nothing to do with Europe. Why would Europe have a seat at the table? This is going to be thrashed out between, fundamentally, America and Russia. Ukraine are at the table. They will have a say, but it does look like their options are going to be very limited. Let's face it, they're not going to go back to the borders before 2014. They're probably not going to go back to the borders before 2022. Donald Trump wants it done and dusted. So the likelihood is that Ukraine will have to accept that the borders will be frozen and that Russia will keep the territory they're now in. That's going to be very unpalatable, but that looks like it's what's going to have to happen.
OK. Catherine Forster, good to see you. Thank you very much.
Now, at 14 minutes past 9, bin workers in Birmingham are set to go on indefinite strike over pay and working conditions.
The walkouts, which began in January, are due to go ahead. That's despite reports of overflowing bins and rat infestation.
Well, members of Unite voted for all-out strike last month.
Well, we're joined now by GB News reporter Steve Bennett. Morning to you, Steve.
Good morning to you both. Good morning. Yes, so the strikes they're happening and the picket lines have begun behind us here in Birmingham as 350 workers go on strike, and it's all due to a long-running dispute to do with the role of waste and recycling collection officer, which has been made redundant by Birmingham City Council. Now, Unite say it's a safety-critical role as part of a 4-person bin crew. It takes care of live issues out on waste collection, and it looks after the safety of the crew themselves. Now, Birmingham City Council deny that's the case, and they say that making this role redundant brings waste collection in line with other authorities. Unite say that the 150 workers affected will lose up to £8,000 a year if forced to retrain in other positions, and Birmingham City Council have responded by offering voluntary redundancy to those people affected of around £7,000, which some workers have accepted. Now, there's a second issue here as well, which is that staff that are on strike have been replaced by agency staff to fill the gap, which Unite say is unlawful and undermines the strikes. The residents of Birmingham have signed a petition last night, 4,000 online signatures to force Birmingham City Council into action to end this as rubbish piles high around the city, rat infestations and smells caused by the rubbish piling up. So it's an ongoing situation. We hope to catch up with some people and some binmen from the picket line themselves as the day goes on. In the meantime, back to you guys in the studio.
OK, Steve, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we want to make your spring spectacular in our latest Great British giveaway. Your chance to win £17,777 exactly in tax-free cash.
A lot of sevens, and you'll win not one, not seven, but two sought-after designer watches and a designer handbag thrown into the mix. If you fancy all of that, here's how.
You could have £17,777 in tax-free cash to play with this spring. Cash to spend on anything you like. And if that wasn't enough, we're also going to give you not one, but two sought-after designer watches and the latest Mulberry handbag. How would winning that sound?
Oh my God, that's brilliant news.
For a chance to win the cash, 2 watches and a designer bag, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB12 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Do stay with us. Still to come, a Parisian theatre has been overrun by migrants. Our reporter Dougie Beattie is there for us.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
I know. So, Chef Theo Michaels joins us in the studio to talk about this. We know we've got a problem with food waste in this country, Theo, but this idea that there's a younger generation who are just reading the back of a packet and going, well, that must have gone off then, throwing it in the bin. Why do they do that when maybe we wouldn't?
Do you know what? I think we live in an increasingly sanitised, bubble-wrapped world, right, where we've become detached from our food, we've become detached from using a bit of common sense. And so I think there's a generation that are doing exactly this. They're looking at a best before date to start with, which actually is meaningless. Best before date is me turning around to you two going, the fish should be at its prime on Tuesday, right? Yeah. But that's not the use by date. The use by date could be a week later. You know, we say the sniff test. That's what we should be doing. So I've had it before. I had a great experience once. I walked into a supermarket and I saw an Italian guy I know, and he was jumping around with so much excitement as he was collecting handfuls of Parmesan cheese that they said, oh, it was going out of date. And he was laughing, so he was going, we aged this stuff for years. Yes. It doesn't go out of date. Yeah. So he was buying it by the truckload. And I think the key thing is there is this sort of sniff test that people talk about, but it's absolutely right. It's ingrained in us. It's instinctive that if we smell something that's off, it's like giving someone a dose of salts.
I'm also wondering, with these dates on these packaging, did it actually do a favour to the supermarkets because it meant that you're throwing them away and buying less?
100%.
Buying more.
The use by dates only came out in the 70s, right? And that was done by one particular supermarket. And for me, I can't help be cynical about it, Bev. Who
was it?
Marks and Spencer's.
Was it?
Marks and Spencer's in the 70s.
They all followed suit.
And yeah.
They all followed suit.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
(9:21) now. A historic theatre in Paris that has been occupied by migrants for 4 months has put serious financial strain on businesses in the area.
Well, the theatre became a shelter for 450 migrants who were previously living rough on the streets of the French capital.
Now, there have been growing concerns, but police have been told not to carry out forced evictions.
Well, we're joined now by GB News reporter Dube Beattie, who's live for us from Paris. Morning, Doogie.
Good morning. Yes, you're just coming to us as we're being moved along. Hold on. Yeah. So we're in. Hello. Sorry. Yes, Paris is quite busy, as you can see, and we're outside the Gaiety Lyric Theatre, where migrants have moved in and took over this theatre behind, and really they have stopped all the footfall going into these shops out round us here. Right out round, and it's causing real problems for business. But mostly it is causing problems for the people that live in this area, because this is a young generation, 16 and 17 years of age, that have encouraged this protest to take place. They have decided to put these homeless migrants into the theatre. So this is a public building. If it was in London or Birmingham, it would be owned by the council. And the council are then saying that these migrants that are in here are a lot younger and they need protection, so the police haven't moved in to take them out. But then that causes a real problem for what actually happens to public buildings that are actually taken over by migrants that are underage. And I mean, in the last sort of 10 minutes here, we have been told to move away for our own safety.
OK, Doogie Beattie, thank you very much.
Right, let's find out what's coming up at 9:30 with Mr Pearce and Ms Turner. Good morning, you two.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
What have you got for us?
Well, we're still sifting through the ramifications of this reform spat caused by Andrew Pearce, possibly.
Yes.
They would say it wasn't that. This has been lingering bullying allegations against Rupert Lowe's office for months, and that was the trigger.
But Lowe has put out a statement. Lowe's team has put a statement out today, which is really interesting, saying it's nothing to do with him, but we worked with him for years. We like him. We respect him. We want to state unequivocally Rupert is a good, decent and honest man. We've never seen any violent or vicious behaviour from him. They also call into question this statement from Reform, which suggests, which I think was designed to suggest that Rupert Lowe had been accused of bullying female members of staff, and in fact it is bullying in his office, not necessarily involved with him, which is why he's
now is saying hasn't
exactly
happened.
And of course that's why he's consulting defamation lawyers. This story, this feud is going nowhere. Front page of the FT is Elon Musk looking at funding a rival party to Reform, led by Rupert Lowe.
Which our viewers may not be rejoicing about. So don't worry.
No.
Reform say this is nothing. This is a storm in a teacup. We will ride it out. We'll be discussing it.
Lovely. Right, we'll see you at 9:30. Thank you very much indeed.
And we'll see you at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Here's the weather.
Great.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head through the week, we can expect sunshine and also some showers. These showers bringing in some snow and a risk of ice, and it is going to be feeling much chillier than it has done of late. A fairly bright start across Northern Ireland, parts of England and Wales, but a chance we could see some patchy frost. Staying largely dry, though we have got plenty of showers starting to feed through from the northeast. Likely these will bring some sleet and snow, particularly across Scotland. Perhaps even northeastern parts of England could see a sprinkling of snow, and it is going to be feeling chilly, particularly in those brisk northeasterly winds. Highs of only around 10 degrees Celsius, but feeling much chillier than it has done over the last few days. So to end the day across Scotland, there's going to be plenty of cloud around, particularly across northeastern parts. Still, a chance these showers could bring in a sprinkling of sleet and snow, particularly across high ground. Similar across Northern Ireland, cloudy with plenty of showers feeding through. Still plenty of showers still across North Sea coasts as well. And throughout inland areas across England and Wales, more dry weather, but still can't rule out a few showers, particularly across Wales, once again bringing some snow towards hills. Now, through the course of the night, we'll see more and more showers feed their way in from the northeast, but where we see clearer skies, temperatures dipping away and likely to once again see quite a patchy frost by the morning, but still quite a brisk northeasterly flow, stopping a lot of frost formation, but many towns and cities still getting into the low single figures, so a chilly start as we head into Wednesday. Some patchy frost, may even see some icy stretches, so do take care if you're out and about during the early hours of the morning, and still plenty of snow showers feeding in, mainly across Scotland, northeastern parts of England. Once again, any snow mainly to higher ground, but we could see some flurries to lower levels too. But through the course of the day, as we see more sunshine, that snow likely to build away and still feeling very cold, particularly in those brisk winds. That's it from me. Bye-bye for now.
Expect a warm